known as Pastor Clem Roberts, a well-respected IT consultant, entrepreneur, Christ ambassador, trainer, and strategist. Please also keep in mind that we need to stay muted, stay focused, and let us be mindful of our background noises. This is all part of our house rules. Let us enjoy what he has to say. Thank you.
Thank you once again, you all, for inviting me there. And I can still see Miss smiling face there. How are you? It's been a long time I saw you. Okay. Today we'll be looking at careers, choices, and values. And I just want to bring it from a practical point of view in terms of what are the things we should look out for when we are making our choices, and what we should look out for when we want to determine the choices that we make. It's very, very important that we understand our personality, we understand our way of life, and when it comes to career or choices, we don't have to estimate or underestimate the choices or the values. We just have to look at them holistically and be able to use that to look inward and see, okay, how do I match what I'm about to go and do, or how do I match the choices I'm about to make? You see, in life, the choices that you make will determine how far you can go and how long you'll be in that area of occupation or career-wise and all that. So we'll be looking at it from a practical aspect. I'm sure most of you will be used to it, but just to try and reiterate and look at it from a remembrance point of view, or just try to look at it as something that I need to know. And I know as young people will say, my parents want me to do this, but I want to do this. Sometimes you say, I want to do this, but my parents don't want me to do this. You know, so it all boils down to sometimes we find it difficult to understand ourselves, and our parents may understand us better. And sometimes we understand ourselves, and our parents might not have a full grasp of what our interests are, or maybe because sometimes we are not fully open for them to see what we like or what we would like to do. So we'll look at it based on interest, based on the things that we like. I have an example where I have a brother who was so good in electronics. You know, he was still in secondary school. He was so good in electronics. And when he was going to go to school, he said, I would like to go and study electronics. And we said, why do you want to go and study electronics? You already know how to fix things. You already know what to do when it comes to electronics. Why did you go and study something else? And in obedience to what we're saying, he went to study microbiology. And he came out, till today, he's not even working with microbiology because his mind is still focused on electronics. You know, but we also have people who went to study things of their own. Advice came, why don't you do this? They refused to go, and they in turn went to go and do what they wanted to do, and they come out, they're regretting, okay, why did I not follow the line of the advice of my parents? So we'll look at it from this point. Number one, what I try to do is to categorize them into different aspects of life. There's what we call the realists. You know, the realists, these are usually people that are interested in things. You know, they are interested in things such as building, mechanics or mechanics, whichever way you want to call it, equipment, tools, electronics. You know, their primary focus is dealing with this as in building, fixing, operating, or designing. Their involvement in these areas leads to high manual skills or fine aptitude or practical design as found in various forms of engineering. Realists they like to find practical solutions to problems using tools, technologies, skilled work. They usually prefer to be active in their work environment. Oftentimes, they want to work alone. Sometimes they enjoy taking decisive actions, with minimal amount of discussion and paperwork. You might be one of those that you find yourself, you don't like paperwork at all. You don't want to be involved in paperwork. You now need to ask yourself, okay, how do I overcome this choice of mine, and how do I pursue a career or a course that will allow me to avoid paperwork? For instance, if you don't like paperwork and you are wanting to become an accountant, that's a big ask. So when you look at the realists, some of the examples I have brought out from there is under the realist. If you're looking for examples of work you can do in terms of career under realists, you have design and development engineer, you have carpenter and joiner, you have engineering production manager, you have manufacturing engineering, you have civil construction engineer, you have metal fabricator, you have army apprentice, you have insurance surveyor, you have cabinet maker, you have aircraft mechanic, you have building engineer, you have construction building. So in all of this area, if you are a realist, somebody who likes to get his hands dirty, or that's how we kind of phrase it, then these are examples of the kind of career that you need to focus on, and or probably find something within that angle of that area to see which one suits me better or which one I would like to become. So if you want to be an army apprentice, for instance, you now need to start looking for ways, or what are the things that I need to do to help me achieve these goals. So you look at all of them, like design development engineer, for instance. What exactly do I need to do? How do I get? What is my first start? How do I achieve my grades? How do I achieve my grades to help me get to that course in the university? So look at that and see how it fits within your reach. Another aspect is the administrative. There are some people, or your interest might be administrative. The first one that we looked at was the realist. The realist, there was the first one that we looked at. These are people that are practical. They just love to get their hands working with tools. Then you have the administrative aspect of a career, where you find people, their interest is to offer a kind of a sense of being part of a larger process. They may be at work more productive under supervision, who give clear guidance while performing routine tasks in a methodical and reliable way. So if you are someone who wants to, who likes office work, it's a routine kind of work. You go in and out, day and out, doing the same thing over and over and over again, creating, performing routines, or performing tasks they have methods, they have frameworks, they have pattern or strategies or principles on how these things can be achieved. Then you need to be looking at this area, administrative. This may be people who find themselves, they enjoy being in charge of office filing, using computer, other office equipment to keep things running smoothly. They usually like routine work, whether being hours. They prefer comfortable indoor workplaces. There are people who just love to be in the office. They want to sit down in the office. They are comfortable with office work. They don't like walking around. They don't want to be in the construction site. You need to look at this area, if this is your interest, if this is what you see yourself doing or becoming. Then examples of such administrative occupation is accountant. You have the business analyst. You have the actuary. You have the payroll manager, business consultant, tax consultation, bank official, database administrator, management accounting, fund administrator, You have all the likes in these categories. These are administrators that love to kind of stay in the confines of the office environment and put all their effort to make all this methodical task, achievable. So if you find yourself in that sphere, then you might need to look at this area as well. You see yourself very good with numbers, like to plot numbers and put figures together. Or sometimes, funny enough, you might like money. Some say, oh, I like money because I like money, I want to be an accountant. It doesn't necessarily follow. You might like money, you might not like to be an accountant. Okay, so you have to look at what your area of interest is in terms of achieving these goals. And in looking at them, you also have to look at the courses that follows as well. Because you look at the business analyst, some people go in to study computing and they end up being business analysts. So I'm sure we'll be able to get there as time goes on. And you look at enterprising. You look at enterprising. Now, enterprising people like situations that involve using resources for personal or corporate economic gain. Such people may have the opportunistic frame of mind and are drawn to commerce, trade, and are drawn to commerce and trade, making deals. You like making deals. Some pursue sales and marketing occupation. Many will eventually end up owning their own business. It's not as if you cannot be an administrator and own your own business, but when you follow, you have a roadmap of what you want to do. Going into the enterprising path gives you a quicker step or a quicker kind of increases your motion towards becoming an enterprising person or an entrepreneur. So many will eventually end up owning their businesses or in management roles in larger organizations. They tend to be very goal-oriented and work best when focused on the target. Some have entrepreneurial inclination. And a few examples there also, you have the bank financial manager. You see how if you look at the previous administrative chart and this one, they come some kind of correlation between the careers or job titles. You have the financial advisor, you have the front office junior manager, you have the travel consultant, you have the retail shop manager, you have the recruitment team leader, you have the area sales manager, you have the IT consultant, you have the management associates, you have management consultant. All these are within the sphere of the enterprising. Then you have the next one, which is investigative. Do you find yourself always inquisitive? Do you find yourself wanting to know things? Always, it's like everything that you see, you want to know the why, the when, and the how. So investigative, these are people that usually find a particular area of science to be of interest. They are inclined towards intellectual, they are very analytical, they enjoy observation and theories. I'm sure when you're in school, you would have noticed that when you're asked to write maybe a project or an essay, some people would have written a massive load of pages and you are still struggling to write one. These kind of guys, they are very good because they are investigative. Every line and every dot of every word they see, they can stretch it so much that they bring out meaningful substance or meaningful words out of what they have read. They may prefer thought to action. They enjoy the challenge of solving problems with sophisticated technology. These types prefer mentally stimulating environments who pay close attention to development in their chosen fields. And such examples of that kind of job, you find them in electronic engineering, you find software engineering, you find computer system administrator, you find scientists, computer programmers, chemical engineer, microbiology, laboratory technician. You have the pharmacists, product and process engineers. You have the chemists, you have the telecommunications engineers. These are examples of people you find within that category. So the question is, where do you see yourself being able to perform, or what do you see yourself now as interested in? The next one I will look at is social. You have the social aspect of careers as well. So under social, you have people who enjoy spending a lot of time with people. You know, sometimes you say, oh, these are the extroverts. They love spending time with people. They often make a profession out of providing some form of care or assistance to them. They like a work environment where they meet and discuss issues that concerns individuals, often in supporting and nurturing role. You know, so many of these people will seek out where there is network with them. They always like to have public contact, always have, they say, I love meeting people. When you see people who do this kind of thing, they always say, I love my job. It gives me an opportunity to meet people. It gives me an opportunity to show empathy to people. And this that falls in within this area: hospitality assistance, nursing, giving information and general guidance, listening, collecting information, GADI, care work. You know, they all fall within this category. An example of social works like this is general nurse. You have the art therapist, you have the acupuncturist, occupational therapist, intellectual disability nurse, you have speech and language therapist, you have social worker, guidance counselors, post-primary, you have teachers that work in nursery and primary and play groups, you have the psychiatric and mental health care nurse, you have the career advisors, you have the guardian counselors and adult education. So these are people that falls in within the categories of social and social activity. Then the other aspect also is creative. The creative types, they like to work with, they're less involved in the personal imagination to create something new, a new design, a new color scheme, a piece of work or a piece of art. This type of people enjoy beauty. They are usually very interested in variety of things, liking unusual sights and sound, places and people and ideas. You find them in architecture, you know, most of the activities they like animation or craft areas such as poetry and ceramics. And examples of jobs that you will find in this area is animator. You know, when you watch if you like watching cartoons, for instance, or those of you that like watching what is Transformers, those things they are just mere drawings that people animated to look real. So if you like those kind of effects, animators, they work in movie industries. You have the architects; those are the ones that designs buildings. You have architectural technicians and technologists. You have advertising act director; those that their job is to direct act or direct the act of advertising. They probably put up a scheme together to say this is the roadmap that we need to follow. Then you have the CAD technician, you have the camera operator, you have film and video editors, you have creative director, you have a dressmaker, you have a beautician, you have makeup artists and film and production. So different aspects. So sometimes like makeup artists, for instance, you can have a makeup artist that works in Debian. You can also have a makeup artist who works in Hollywood. Both of them are makeup artists, but they earn different. They have different values, what they take home. The next one that we'll look at is linguistic. These ones are usually, you might find yourself involved or interested in things that focuses on ideas and information exchange. You know, this set of people tend to read a lot. They enjoy discussion about what is being said. Some will want to write about their own ideas and they follow a path towards journalism, story writing, or editing. Others will develop skills in other languages. They have finding work as a translator or interpreter. There are people who their main job is just to translate. Sometimes you find them in embassies. You know, their own is to translate maybe like say United Nations, for instance, you have representatives from different spheres of the world, and somebody who is speaking in Russia or in Arabic language or in a different language, you need somebody to translate that to you, who is your own person. This is where most of these people they fall into as well. They can translate and communicate in different languages. They have the ability to enjoy, working in areas like this. And such people, you can find examples of such job as in advertising copywriter, those that can copyright in different languages, translators, journalists, radio, television, radio presenter, copy editor, publishing, linguistics, journalist reporting, content writing, marketing communications and manager, software localization, interpretation and technical writing. Like the software localization, for instance, you might write a program or you might develop a software in English, and you need to translate, you need the people, you need maybe the French people or the Spanish people or the Russians to understand or to be able to use that same software. You need people like this to translate them into that language, word for word, and to be able to give the exact same result. Then you have the naturalists. The naturalists involve doing something that is organic. They love plants, they love animals, they love anything nature. They just love them. And you find examples of this naturalist in biological and microbiological scientists, biochemists, a chef, head brewer, master brewer, environmental technician, environmental officer, dairy industry research scientist, nutritionist, forest worker, environmental health officer, botanist or botanist, tree surgeon, and arborist. These are different type of people you find under this naturalist. So those are the few examples that I want to pass across to you this afternoon. So the responsibility is for you to now find, where is my interest area? What am I interested in? Or what are the things that I would love to do? Sometimes we might find ourselves in multiple areas. As I've shown, you might find yourself in one or two areas that you like so much. You might say, okay, but this realist and the other is in realist, or one is in administrative and the other one is in enterprising. How do I combine this together? And that's where we'll talk about, okay, confused, what do I do? So when you're confused, what do I do? When you have your interest spread across all the things that I have said so far, or sometimes you like to be a lawyer, but at the same time you want to be an accountant. You could, one of the advice I would give is, there are universities that combine courses. Most universities, all of them are not all the same. There are universities that they combine courses together, where they give you the opportunity to choose or to make up your mind maybe after year 1 or year 2. I think Trinity does that a lot. When you go to Trinity, they combine like electronics, electronic mathematics, computer science, computing. Then when you make up your mind what to do, you now concentrate on one area. Then that's where you now take it up above to where you really want to concentrate on. So if you're confused, one of the things to do is to look for courses that are combined, or universities that are offering combined courses that can help you to say, okay, let me go into this, and I will now decide to spread out. Or maybe you are in love with computing, for instance, but you're not so sure. It's okay, let me go for computing with business. Then at the time you get into year 1, year 2, you're seeing that, oh, okay, I think I'm much more of a business person. I'm not sure I want computing. Then you can move towards that direction. Or you can say, if you know exactly what you want to go and do, then you just go straight and go for it. So look for universities or courses that are combined, so that you have the opportunity to get. It's like you are spreading your arms in different places to be able to achieve your goal. When we are interested in something, we are motivated to become more knowledgeable or skillful in that area. So choosing a career direction in an area that you are interested in makes good sense, rather than choosing something that, oh, my friends are doing it, I want to do it. Or people say, oh, this is what is bringing money now, oh, let's go for it. That is usually not the best way, to choose a career. And sometimes if you don't have, you are confused, you're in a confused state, you can lay your cards on the table before mommy and daddy and say, Mom, Dad, what do you think? Because whether you like it or not, they know you so well, they know you better, they know you more, they know your proclivity, your sense of judgment, your disposition, how you position things, so they can say, oh, this person is very analytical. I think you will be better off in this area. Like when I was growing up, going to go to school, my parents wanted me to study medicine, and somehow, somewhere, I just find myself, doing computing. But today, I feel so bad that I didn't do medicine. Maybe if I had listened to them, I would have gone ahead, graduated as a medical person. But I'm into computing today. I'm not enjoying it. I'm thankful to God that yes, but when I look deep down on the inside of me, I just feel, oh, I should have been a doctor. So sometimes it's good for us to listen to our loved parents as well, who are more or less our first point of contact when it comes to mentoring and guiding us in the sphere of life. So you look for related occupation and courses as well. There are occupations that are related together, like courses like when we look at the administrative, the enterprising, and the analytical one, we noticed that there were courses that were related together that you can fuse together and create an occupation out of it. Then, when you sort out the confusion, you also have to look at what are the career values. What are the career values? Where do I want to live and work? Okay. If you are so interested in a particular job and you want to live in a particular area, and the area you want to live, there is no, let's say you want to, let's say you want to be an architect, for instance, and you did your architectural course or schooling in a place like Iceland, and you say you want to live in Saudi Arabia. That's a bit of a given, because Iceland and Saudi Arabia, they are not the same. The platform is not the same. The terrain is not the same. So you need to try and understand. So where do I want to live and work? Just imagine now you close your eyes and something pops up, or maybe a genie. We know what a genie is. You know what a genie is? A genie, or have you watched Aladdin or Aladdin? Have you watched that movie? Okay. The genie pops up and say, make a wish. Then as you're about to make a wish, say, be careful, be careful. You just have one choice to make. And it says, what do you want to do? What do you want to become? And you just have one wish. What will be the first thing that will pop out of your mind? What will be the first thing? So where do I want to live and work? The next thing is, what kind of job appeals to me? What kind of job appeals to me? You want to be a doctor. You don't like seeing blood. That's terrible. You want to be a doctor. You don't like seeing blood. You want to be a lawyer. You don't like seeing people go to jail. You believe everybody should be set free. Then that's not for you. No amount of schooling will put that sense of judgment on the inside of you, you know. So you say you want to be a pilot, but you don't like flying. Every time you go on the plane, you're always panicking. Then that's something, okay, no. When I studied the course, I graduate as a pilot, I will get used to it. No, there's no such thing as getting used to it. You don't like flying, you don't like flying. It's like you overcome the phobia of flying now than just waste all your years trying to become a pilot. Then you now realize, oh, I really don't like flying, you know. That's not the best time to do that. So what kind of job appeals to me? What kind of job appeals to me? Do you want to be a teacher? Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a lawyer? Do you want to be a construction worker? Do you want to be an architect? Do you want to be a computer scientist? Do you want to be an IT person? So what exactly is the kind of job that appeals to you? Do you want to be a social worker? Okay, or do you want to be a judge? You want to slam the hammer on the table and say you are sentenced to 20 years in prison. So what kind of job appeals to you? The next thing is, what kind of co-workers will be kindred spirits? What kind of co-workers will be kindred spirits? You need to find out the kind of co-worker you like to be. You say you like meeting people, and you say you like meeting people, for instance, and you went to go and study a course, and you didn't know that where you end up will be in the prison yard, looking after prison inmates. That's meeting people as well. So you need to understand all this and find out exactly what are the kind of co-workers you'll be meeting, so that you'll. I don't think people who work in the hospital, their co-workers are lawyers. So if you're somebody who likes the high flying, where you go to, tea parties, big executive meetings and all that, jetting from one place to the other, the hospital might not be the best place for you. You might just obviously be a consultant or a business analyst that analyzes jobs from one place to the other. The next thing is, what kind of working conditions will be rewarding? You have to look at the money and the value aspect of it, to see exactly how rewarding that will be. Rewarding in terms of satisfaction. How satisfied will I be if I embark on this job? How rewarding will it be for me? Is it going to take away the whole of my life, or is it going to add to my life? How rewarding will it be? What level of responsibility can I handle? That's one major thing that you need to consider as well. When you're looking at your career, you're looking at the choices that you want to make. What level of responsibility can I handle? If you don't like writing essays, I don't think you should go and study history. You say, okay, I want to be a teacher, I want to teach history, and you don't like writing essays, you don't like writing, you just get tired of writing. So history might not be the best for you because there's so much writing there. If you say, okay, I don't want to write too much, but I love 1 + 1 = 2, I like definitive answers, okay, let me go and study mathematics. You can go for that angle as well. Then the last one there is, what salary level is important for me to attain? What is the salary level that is important for me to attain? If you look at what is going on around the whole world now, based on the pandemic, a lot of people have lost their jobs. Some are making more money. Some are still earning the same amount of money they'll be earning, while some don't even have jobs at all. So once you call the frontline workers, they are making money at this time. You might say, oh, my whole pandemic time will come. It doesn't follow. So you need to make up your mind exactly, what will I do that will fulfill all these values in my life? So the salary level is important. If you want to, there are some jobs that you do. I don't want to be specific about some particular kind of job. There are some jobs or career course that you will do. You will never grow beyond some certain limits. So you need to be sure, if you want to be somebody who wants to, okay, I want to earn 6 figures, you need to be sure that the course that you are pursuing will take you to that level, will be able to give you that attainment. So if you are somebody who says, I want to be earning money in millions, then you need to rearrange what your values are so that you know how to get there. You don't, but every job that you do, if you do them very well, if you concentrate on them, make sure you get to the top of that ladder in that particular course or career, I'm sure that the best in all of them will come to you. That's it for me. If you have any questions. If you have any question you want to ask, you can ask. So the bottom line of my slide today is just that you need to be able to match your values, your job components, and rearrange the way our reasoning is going at the moment so that when the opportunity comes, we'll be able to take hold of it. So if you have any question, I can answer any question or any area where you're confused the one thing or the other, let me know.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that informative session. I hope everybody learned something from that. So now that we are at the end, we are in the Q&A session now. If you have any questions you would like to ask anonymously, please privately message them to my name, Jermaine. Or if you would like to say it out, you can as well. We have a public chat. So now is the time. Well, I have some questions for you myself while we're waiting, sir.
Yes.
So the first one I have is good performance in certain school subjects a sufficient indicator for one's career? So someone—
the line is breaking there. You may have to repeat yourself.
Apologies. Let me type it just in case as well. You can read it as well, but hopefully I can be heard now. What I said was, is good performance in certain school subjects a sufficient indicator for one's career?
Sorry, Jermaine, can you start from the top? I didn't hear the first set of questions.
Okay. I'm saying my first question now. Can you hear me now, sir?
Yes.
Okay, so the first question I have is good performance in certain school subjects a sufficient indicator for one's career? If somebody is doing extremely well in maths, all from primary school to secondary school, is that a good enough indicator to become an accountant or whatnot?
It could be, and it could not. Because if you're very good in mathematics and you really don't like mathematics, you probably might be doing them just to pass the exams. But if you like them and you're doing those things without stress, you're passing your exams or your subjects without too much stress or reading, then I think it's a good indicator that you need to follow that line. Now, because you are very good in mathematics, necessarily doesn't mean you want to be a maths teacher. It could be that your line of career could be within the area where mathematics is needed. So that could be it. So I don't think it's best to judge because you're very good in one subject. That means that's the area where you should go. But at the same time, you can't be good in mathematics, English, physics, chemistry, and biology, and you say you want to go and study business when you don't have any clue of what economics is. Or maybe, let's say, for instance, in all your time in secondary school, every time it comes to maths, English, physics, chemistry, and biology, you're always coming up with high marks. But when it gets to economics, government, and probably literature, you're almost at the verge of failing. It will not be wise for you to say, oh, I actually want to be in the government house, so I want to go and study government. I don't think it's wise. So it's good for you to follow the line of where you're doing well. You're already doing well in that area. It will be much easier for you to come out in flying colors in that area. And there is no harm in changing way after when you've done all that, because somebody who started off as a chef in probably in a local restaurant can also become a chef or a cook in the White House tomorrow.
Maybe you see that change is another area that can raise questions. How long do you feel would you say into one's either degree or one's career can they take before they change? So some people may feel satisfied, or some people might not be satisfied with their course in their first year of the degree. But we could have our parents could argue and say maybe you have not spent enough time, you're not giving it enough, you're not giving it a chance. So and same for our career. So maybe your first year on the job, you are not satisfied and you want to change. Is there a certain time period that we should allow before changing, or should
No,
we?
I don't think there is a time frame, but anything that you want to do, if you start early, you will get there on time. But at the same time, let's say, for instance, if I get your question rightly, let's say, for instance, you started off as, or maybe you want to be, let's see, what's the best way to describe it now? Okay, let's say you want to be a computer scientist,
Yes, sir.
for instance. You want to be a computer scientist, and the only option you got was to be to do business and information technology.
Yes, sir.
Now, you could go on doing that, knowing fully well that your end goal is to be a computer scientist, because you are more or less within the same sphere of learning in terms of computing or computer scientists and information technology. So you can go ahead and do the business and information technology. If there is no, and also it depends, I think it depends on the school as well, if they have room for change, or if there are other schools that can accept you from where you're coming from. If they are known, I would advise, okay, concentrate on what you're doing. When you finish, it might take you just like another 18 months to do your master's, concentrating on computer science to get to where you're going. Okay. Rather than say, oh no, I don't want to do business and information technology. I want to wait until I get my computer science grades for me to be able to do that. So you can start off with that and graduate into doing the computer science part. But the place where you will have a problem is where somebody says he's doing law, but his ultimate goal is to be a pharmacist. I think there's like an opposite direction, of course, from where I see it. So if you know where you're going, start on time to plan. If situations and circumstances puts you in a very awkward position, use that situation and circumstances to your advantage and make what you want to achieve it. Does that answer your question?
Of course. Thank you so much, sir. We have some questions now from some of our participants. Okay. The first one, do you think parents should have the final say regarding your future career?
Final say, or have a say?
The final say.
The final say, yeah, regarding your future career. Tough one. You know, I'm a parent, you know. Okay, now, it depends. If, for instance, you have not been able to prove responsible or dependable in area of your decision, then your parents can make a final decision for you. You know, what am I saying? When I was growing up, when I graduated from the university, a few of my friends, none of them have graduated. None of them have even started university. They were still trying to, some of them have even forgotten about university. So when I graduated, because they were my friends, what I did was I spent 1 year, 2 years mingling with them. And we started forming all different kinds of musical groups, calling ourselves all kinds of funny names, you know, and we're trying to tell ourselves that we're succeeding. These guys that were in the group, they don't have any ambition other than to be a musical person. I have graduated as a computer scientist, and I was messing around with those people. And my mom was always crying and lamenting, my son, do you want to kill me? Do you want to kill me? This is not how to do it. This is not how to do it, you know? But some of the uncles that were around were saying, no, don't worry, it's what you have in hand that you hold. What do you have in hand? I'm a graduate, messing around with people who have not gone to university, forming a musical group, and we are dancing all over Lagos. It wasn't anything. So my parents were there standing their grounds to make sure that I trace my step back to the place where I was supposed to be. So if you're in a position where you don't the responsibility is not there, I think parents can make decisions on your behalf that you will benefit later. But if you can make decisions for yourself and they see that you are responsible and matured enough with your decisions, and you know where you are going, you know how to get there, you've mapped out all your roadmaps, then they will leave you to it. Because sometimes they could ask you a very trick question. They could say, okay, what do you think you want to become in life? You might think it's just a playful thing. They will ask you a question and you are scratching your head and actually, basically, the way you guys talk, basically, actually, yes, you see, okay, I've really not made up my mind. Then the husband, your father and your mom will sit down together and will say, we have trouble in this household. Then that's why they now start making decisions or try to make choices for you based on what they have seen you achieve or perform in time past. So I think if you look at it from that angle, yes, they can if you are not mature or responsible enough to make a decision or give them a roadmap. It's like this. If they say, do you have central stores in your area, central, or you have Tesco?
Yeah.
Okay, if they say, Jermaine, come and go to Tesco, and you say, I don't know the road to Tesco, what will your parents do? They will carry you in their car and take you to Tesco, yeah?
Of course, yeah.
So the same thing with your career. If they ask you, what do you want to do? And you don't know, then they will carry you in the career of cars and go and dump you where you need to go.
Hopefully not in the wrong destination. Thank you, sir.
Well, you don't know where you are going, so wherever they're taking you to is the right one.
That's true. That's true. The next question we have is in the chat publicly, actually. In view of technology advancements, for example, robots taking over people's jobs, do people with administrative skills have job security? So in other words, is there any chance, any risk of technology taking over the jobs of administrative skills?
Okay, can you take the question again? I think the thing froze on me.
Okay, it's actually in the chat. It's from Kay. It's public there, so you'll be able to read it. It says, in view of technology advancements.
Yes.
That's when, technology takes over our jobs, like self-scanner machines. Are administrative skills at risk? The jobs with administrative skills, are they at risk? Is there any chance of technology taking over the jobs in administration?
Well, technology will take over administrative. It's already taken over. There are some things that people do manually at the moment, though that there are people do manually in time past that has been taken over by technology. Having said that, behind every technology there's a brain.
Yes, sir.
So usually that's why most times when people go into schools to say, like, young ones that still have brains and the maturity, the brains and the years to do that, you have to understand where you're going. When you say you're going to school and you want to work in a computer environment, for instance, people going to school to say they want to go and study business and applications. That's not computer science. So if there's a digression, or like the way technology is being advanced, e.g. with robots and all that, you will find it difficult, you'll be displaced easily. But when you study computer science, for instance, regardless of whatever technology comes in play, you'll be able to fit into those areas because you have the science of that field. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like a GP, for instance, a general practitioner. He can give you all manner of things in every area. They refer you to people who are specialized in a particular area. Yeah. So yes, robots will take over. But what I usually advise people is, why don't you try and get involved with the technology that is about to take over? So the robots that are taking over, why don't you try and get involved in how to make those robots? Like most times I usually tell my son, I said, you are playing these S games. Have you ever thought one day, let me make a game for people to play and money to be coming? Yeah. So instead of you spending time saying, oh, they want to take administrative job, look for, how do I make robots to do the same thing? Or how do I get involved with robots doing the same thing. So if, for instance, you are into computing, for instance, and you love software development, and you see a particular thing that a robot is doing, you could say, okay, there's a way I can make this robot do more. So let me write more codes to make sure that these robots can do more beyond what they are doing already. So yes, technology will overtake things that we naturally, take for granted. But somebody has to operate that technology. There's always a brain behind the technology. So for instance, if you have 5 people in an industry, in an environment, in an organization, doing a job before, when they bring in a robot, it might become one person. Why don't you try to be that one person?
Yeah, you're one step ahead. Completely understand you, sir. Thank you, sir. We're getting a lot of questions now. There's 2 that I can mix together. So it says, one that I got privately says, what if you are really smart and academic, but you're not sure about your career path, and your parents are trying to impose a career on you, but you don't like it? But you are also my certain, you'll be successful in the other ones you've chosen. And I'll add to that another question that was asking, what if you are good on the sports side? So what if you have an interest in sports? So that career that they may be imposing on you might not be what you want. And what you actually want is to do with sports, or maybe something in the entertainment sector. How they approach that situation.
Okay. Well, when it comes to missing sports with career, I'm probably not the right person, because I will always be biased anyways when it comes to missing sports and career. But one I always say is this: sports is a hobby that they've turned into a money-making machine. One thing you should know is this: if you say you like playing football, for instance, what are the odds that you'll be successful, or that you'll be taken, or you'll be picked? What are the odds? There are so many people that started playing football with Ronaldo. How many of them are playing professional today? So are you the Ronaldo, or the ones that were neglected? So there are so many people that were playing football with Messi. Messi was picked. Where are the other ones? There were 12 of them in the club, or 22 of them in the club. Where are the other ones? So the odds are there, So what I usually will say is, if you have a hobby, stick onto that hobby and make sure you concentrate on your education, because you always have something to fall back on. You see, thank God for the money a lot of footballers have made when they retire. You see, the rate at which they grow old from their retirement is so, the gap is so thin. You just see stress all over them once they retire, because there's really nothing to fall back on other than thinking of how to manage the money that they have made. And there's always this fret that the money will finish one day, But if you look at this guy, I think it's Platini or so, and they was Blatter. Those guys were medical doctors before they started, while they were playing football.
Okay.
Because when football started in those days, there were people that were brought in from banks, brought in from different organizations to play these things. So it was medical doctors and everything. There was a goalkeeper that played for Italy recently or so, maybe it was Juventus. So the guy is on his way becoming, he's in the law area. He's on his way becoming a solicitor already, and he's a goalkeeper. So if you have all this hobby that you feel that you want to go into, it shouldn't stop you from your education. While you are doing that, you can still be doing your hobby. That's why I like the American system. The American system will make sure that you go to school while you are doing your sports. So if you are so good in basketball, for instance, they make sure that you are doing your basketballing while you're in school. Not that you just leave school totally out of it. It's only those that doesn't want to further their education, then they just let go. But it's good if you have a hobby or you have a sport that you're very good at, please just try, because you might be very good at the sports. If they break your leg, that's the end of the game.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, if you see a doctor on crutches, that crutches doesn't stop the doctor from performing an operation. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
If the doctor is so good, you see, why I like doctors so much is this: no matter how old you are, you can still function.
Yeah.
Even if you're on a wheelchair, All they will do is they will come to you and ask you questions. You will give them, you become a consultant. You can still go. The doctors do that. Teachers as well, you know, or lecturers.
Yeah.
You know, they can become the consultants and everything. So anything that you cannot become a consultant in, just avoid it.
Yes, sir.
Avoid those kind of thing, and don't become obsolete in everything. Is not about money, because whatever you see that looks as if it's blossoming during summer will wither in winter. That's how life is. So look for something that you will fall back on, so that just in case, because if you are playing football tomorrow, oh, they picked you for Manchester United and everything, then next summer your leg is broken.
So
That's it. As good as you are, as powerful as you are, that's it. Your leg is broken, they'll be looking for where to dump you. And once they dump you, what do you fall back on? But if you have a law degree, they dump you, you go back to your law. Even if you are working with coaches, you still go to the court. It doesn't stop your mouth from moving. Look at this guy that was on wheelchair for a long time, that died recently. What's his name? This professor, this scientist.
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawkins. Does the guy talk? He doesn't talk. They had to make a computer for him so that they can hear his voice because of what he has in his brains. Now, can you imagine if the guy was a referee, for instance? Will they bring him to the field to come and be referee a Premier League match?
No, sir.
So those are the things that you look at. It's not as if sport is not good. It's like somebody going on an aeroplane and is flying all through and is saying to himself that the gas will not finish or the fuel will not run down, and is piloting the plane all over for 24/7, non-stop, and he says, oh no, I'm not going to run out of gas. That's how those things are. They are temporary. So you need to look for things that will help you. If you are somebody who wants to walk, well, I mean, if you enjoy walking, if you enjoy giving people, if you enjoy giving people solace or comfort, and you want to do that for the rest of your life, not just an ephemeral walk, then you need to look for something that transcends beyond, just money, and you find fulfillment in it. Even when you retire, they will still come to you for consultation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, sir. In the interest of time, we're going to hold it there for the rest of the questions. Everyone else who has asked me questions, I'm going to gather them now, and I'll get the answer to you afterwards. But we're going to move on to our next speaker. So, Simi, I'll let you take the reins now. Thank you again so much for your presentation, sir. It was incredibly informative. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Jermaine, for that quick intro. So hi, guys. My name is Simi, and I'm going to introduce our next speaker, who is Kelly Holmes. He is a clinical psychologist who has worked in the area of mental health in Ireland for over 20 years. So, Kelly, are you ready now?
Hello?
Hi, Kelly. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Perfect.
I can hear you fine. Hey, sorry. I'd just like to apologise to everybody that I didn't realise that no one could actually hear me, so I was talking away to myself here for about 10 or 15 minutes. But anyway, we're all sorted now. I'm just on my iPhone now, so hopefully it's a lot better.
Yes, it's perfect now. Thank you very much for your patience.
Okay, can you take over, Kelly? We are waiting for you.
Okay, rightio. Thank you there. Okay, thank you. So my name's Kelly Holmes. I'm a psychologist. And that basically means that I guess I've been working in the field of adult mental health for a long time. So that's probably what my field is. And today I'm just going to be looking at our mental health. And I guess that I think to start off with is often when people say, when they talk about mental health and they're asking themselves, well, what do they want from it? A lot of the time people say to me, I want to feel happy. I want to feel content the whole time. But that is an impossible thing to happen. Okay. The reason why that is an impossible thing is that because as humans, we are emotional creatures. Okay. That means that we experience a whole range of emotions. Okay. So some of the main emotions you might know would be sadness or happiness or anger or anxiety or guilt, or even what your previous speaker said, Mr. Roberts, he said interest. Interest is actually an emotion, and it's probably the most important emotion because it's probably what's helped us to evolve as humankind. So I guess what I'm saying is, as humans, we are designed to experience all of these emotions, okay? And we may experience some of these emotions in a week, we may experience some of them over a day. I'll give you an example. If you lost your pet, or if you or someone said something mean to you, sorry, I'm just putting this up here. Likewise too, if you did something bad on somebody or you let somebody down, then it's completely natural and normal to feel guilty about it, okay? Likewise too, in this current environment we have where you haven't been able to like see your friends, you are anxious about about the exams, and now they're cancelled, and what's going to happen to your grade, when is this all going to be over, is college even going to start on time? Like, it's completely natural to feel anxious about that, because anxiety is an emotion that comes along when we feel uncertain about the future. Okay, so when we feel uncertain about the future, we just become anxious about it. So we can't take away the feeling of being anxious. Okay, if I was to try to take away that feeling, being anxious is like saying that you're never going to cry again, or you're never going to feel embarrassed, or you're never going to feel awkward, or you're never going to laugh again. It's an emotion, okay? Anxiety is an emotion that's here to stay, so we can't take it away, okay? But what we can try to do is we can try to manage our emotions, okay? So that we can experience our emotions without being overwhelmed by it. So that we can experience being anxious without it turning into panic, okay, or getting us down. And so that's what I'll be talking about today, is just how we can manage our emotions and some tips that we can have for good mental health. Okay, so very good, thank you there, Kay, good job. So the tips for having good mental health, the first thing I guess I'll say is, you know, this is going to pass, okay? This COVID and the restrictions and all of that sort of stuff is going to pass, okay? I don't know when, okay, but the signs are there that it's starting to improve. So for instance, from Monday, public spaces are starting to open up, more shops are opening up. I even think that McDonald's drive-through is starting to open up for all of you lovers of it out there. I know I'll be in my queue for it as well. And you can also start to meet up with 3 other friends, okay? So things are starting to pass. Now I know that you still have to keep your distance socially and stuff like that, but just to be aware that like difficult times always pass, okay? Emotions, hard emotions, like if your heart has been broken or you're feeling sad and stuff, it always passes, okay? So just to be aware that even though it's tough times, there are encouraging signs that we're starting to come out of us. The other important thing with mental health is, excuse me, is social contact, okay? So keeping in contact with your friends and family is very important. And what's great now is that we have the media now where we can look at things like Zoom and WhatsApp. The one I've been getting on is House Party. And it's great. So do keep in contact with your people on a regular basis with friends and family. And from Monday, you'll be able to meet up with about 3 other people. So take advantage of that, okay? And when you do meet with people as well, don't just talk about the things that make you worried or the things that make you scared or the bad news, you know. Make sure that when you meet up with people, you talk about everyday stuff as well, like movies you might have watched or music that you're into or who you caught up with. And what that concept is called problem-free talk, okay? And what tends to happen a lot, say, with the patients who I work with is when I see them and I say, how are things going? They just rattle off negative, negative, negative. Oh, this has happened, this has happened. I've never met one person yet in 20 years of working who's improved by telling me how bad things are, okay? People improve when they start to notice, you know what, even though I'm having a bad day, there's still some other stuff that's happening around. So it's about having that like balance, that sure, we can talk about our like problems, but you know what, it's also good to talk about other stuff too. The other next important thing, I guess, when we're looking at mental health is exercise. Okay, they did a survey of doctors in America there, and they asked the doctors in America. They said, if you could put anything into a pill, okay, anything, what would it be to help with physical health and mental health? And all the doctors, and I agree, they said exercise. Okay, if we could make a pill that could do the same, that people would exercise, that's just how important exercise is for your mental health and your physical health. So during these times, during lockdown, and we're in our restrictions and stuff like that, make sure you get out every day. Okay, and if you can get out in the morning's best. Okay, because I don't know if you've ever noticed it. Excuse me, but the longer you stay in bed, the less energy you actually have and the harder it is to actually face things. If you get up in the morning, you have some sort of routine and you get out for a brief walk or for 20 minutes, that's good. That's good. It just, I have a saying, energy breeds energy. And when you're out and about, you don't have to overdo it. You don't have to be there trying to break land speed records or zooming around the park or any of that kind of stuff. Just get out there, have a walk, take your time, and that's fine. And it doesn't even have to, you know, as I always said, it's always good to get outside, but even if you can inside, if you can exercise like, you know, like dancing. Loads of people love dancing, and my daughter's had me on this app called Just Dance Now. So if there's that special move, that dance move that you want to pull off to impress your friends, now's the time to like practice it. So if you can make the exercise fun and exciting and all of that stuff as well, then that's good too. The other, I guess the next point I was going to talk about there really is connect to the world or stay in the moment. Sorry, I just have to flick back from screen to screen to make sure I'm on track. Yep. So this, what do we mean by connect to the world or stay in the moment? There's this concept of mindfulness, and you've all probably heard, I see it around everywhere, being mindful of things. And there's a lot of hoopla around it, to be honest, okay? There's lots of books and people go, you know, it sounds a bit airy-fairy and stuff like that. But basically what being mindfulness is about, it's about being able to use all of your senses to describe what is happening right now. That's all it is. And by senses, I mean your eyesight, your hearing, your touch, your feel, your taste. And that's all it is. It's just using all of your senses to describe what is happening right now. I'll give you an example of that. If you were, say, going for a walk, okay, so you go for a walk, and then when you're going for a walk, though, you're inside your like head the whole time. Okay, oh, who have I offended today? Have I said the wrong thing? What did somebody say to me? What were they getting at when they said that? What problems have I got? I've got money problems. When is the COVID-19 going to pass? You see how you're going for your walk, but you're not getting the benefit of it because you're in your mind too much. Okay, being mindful, the example I would use then was that you go on that same walk, but you go on it the next day, and the next day you go out, but this time you use your mind to start to describe what's happening. Okay, so some of the things that you might do to describe it is that you might start to notice the birds chirping. Okay, you might see the wind coming through the trees. You might smell the grass. You know, you might feel the warmth of the sun on your skin. Now I know that's hard on Ireland because it isn't sunny the whole time, but it has been the last couple of weeks. You feel that sun on your actual skin. That's your mind. Okay, and do you see how the benefit of a walk is a lot better when you just use your senses and describe what is happening right now? And that's all it is. Okay, and people do it because you get a benefit from it. A lot of sports stars use it too. So any of you people out there who are into sports, like Brian O'Driscoll, the rugby player, he used to say that when he was playing rugby, his only thought was catch that ball. Okay, the ball's coming, catch that ball, make that tackle. If his mind started to wander to the crowd or the result or winning the Six Nations Championship, then he wasn't as effective in that moment. Okay, our mind is a very powerful thing. It's a task manager. It does what we tell it to do. If I drop this pen on the table, my mind tells me to pick up that pen. It does what you tell it to do. If you use your mind to beat yourself up with it, okay, to point out all of the things that are wrong with you, your mind will not only beat you up about it, it will go to the future and tell you every other thing that you're going to stuff up. So sometimes in order to get control of our mind back, we need to just, use it in a different way and use it just to focus on what's happening around it. You know what? I'm going to sit here. I'm going to try to listen to 3 or 4 noises. Okay, I'm sitting here. You can normally pick up 2 noises. You might pick up 3, but it's very hard to pick up the 4th one. Or I'm going to use my mind. I'm just going to notice the warmth of the sun, or I'm going to say if I'm listening to music, I'm really going to feel that beat. So that's all it is. Okay, and the reason why people do it is because it makes things more enjoyable, but it's tricky. Okay, so if you ever find yourself going to try it, only do it for 5 seconds or 10 seconds at a time, because we're not often used to using our brain just to describe things. Okay, so the other point, I guess, which is important is lifestyle. And this is stuff that you probably all know about, but the first one is to try and eat on a regular basis. Okay, so that's your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Mental health loves routine. Okay, now you know that you're meant to eat be like good stuff, the vegetables and the fruit and all of that kind of stuff. But treat yourself too. You're allowed to have the light treat, but everything with a treat is in moderation. Okay. The other thing about lifestyle I'll touch on is alcohol and drugs. Now, I don't know if any of you drink at all, but just to bear in mind that with alcohol, that there's been a 44% increase in alcohol sales during the restriction. And if people are drinking, just to be aware that alcohol can make things worse. Well, alcohol and the hangovers can make things worse, and it can make you feel more isolated. Drugs, okay, you probably heard about drugs and stuff like that. Is just to let you know kind of the negative side effects of drugs. Is I obviously work in adult mental health, so I deal a lot with cases like psychosis or schizophrenia. That's where people, they don't know what's real anymore, and they may hear voices or think that there's someone else who they're not. Of the 15 young people who came into our service last year, 14 of them had been smoking cannabis. Okay, so just to let you know that be careful of what you put into your bodies. Okay, because it can have a big effect, and I guess I see that firsthand. The other thing just on lifestyle, is sleep. Okay, sleep is probably the most important thing for our mental health. Okay, if you take me now, and if you kept me awake for 4 or 5 days, so every time I went to fall asleep, if you woke me up, okay, after 4 or 5 days, it may even be sooner, it may only be 2 or 3 days, I'm going to start to hear things that aren't there. I'm going to start to read into things or see things that aren't quite there. I might have a suspicious mind about stuff. Okay, so you see how you sleep. If that goes, it affects everything, because your sleep is your body's natural way of healing itself and to refresh the mind. And the best thing about sleep is, once again, routine. Mental health loves a routine. Okay, so the best thing about sleep is getting up, is maybe going to bed at roughly the same time and getting up the same time in the morning. And the reason why we get up in the morning is so important is that we have a thing called an internal body clock. Okay, this is set to a 24-hour cycle, and it's reset by light. Now, this body clock, the best way to describe is that, have you ever gone to set your alarm, say, for 8 o'clock in the morning, and then at 7:58 you wake up, or 7:59 you wake up? That's your body clock telling you when to wake up. And this is what we use to help us with sleep and to keep us awake. And that's reset by getting up at the same time in the morning. Now, if you do what my teenage stepdaughters are at the moment, they're going to bed about 3 or 4, okay, and then sleeping all day and then getting up at 2. The problem with that, that's called a reverse sleep cycle. The problem with that is that messes up your whole sleep, okay, especially if you start to nap during the evening time as well. So sleep responds well to routine, okay, especially getting up at the same time in the morning. The other thing to be careful, obviously, with sleep is that a lot now with our phones, we have blue lights coming from, or we have bright lights, or a thing called artificial blue light that comes from our phone, our tablets, our laptops. And that, when you put that on at night, that can stimulate your brain, okay? So your brain and your body associates darkness with starting to relax and calm down and go to sleep. So when you start throwing that blue light or artificial light start to stimulate your brain, that can affect your sleep. So, power down that kind of stuff maybe 2-3 hours before you go to sleep, okay? That's just all going to help with your actual sleep. So I think the next slide there I had for some other tips was social media. Okay. Now, social media is great, isn't it? I was, I'll say about 2 years ago, I was going back home to New Zealand, and just to catch up with family and friends and stuff like that. And I was in a cafe in Ireland in like Dublin. So for those of you who don't know, basically this is the Earth, Ireland's here, and New Zealand, my hometown, is here. Okay, so we're literally halfway around the world. If you drilled a hole through the Earth, you end up 40 miles south of where I was born. So they're literally halfway around from each other. I was in a cafe in Dublin. I texted my friends and family, said, look, I'll be back over here in 2 weeks. Let's have a barbecue. You bring this food, you bring this drink and that. So I organised a barbecue halfway around the world in 15 minutes on text message. I arrived home. Sure enough, everyone turned up. They brought the right food. They brought the right drink. And I just thought, this is amazing. It's amazing how I can organise a barbecue halfway around the world. And so I think it's great, but it comes with a catch. Okay, the pitfalls with social media is that if you're on it too long, or if you're just on it because you're bored, or if you find that when you're on it the whole time you're comparing yourself to others, you're getting jealous, you're getting envious, or you're just feeling angry or down about it, then you have to try to put a limit on it. Okay, they did a survey in the UK in 2017 where they interviewed 1,500 young adults aged 14 to 24 years. And they found that the more often the people were on the more often they were on social media, the more negative their mental health was. So the more rates of depression, low mood, and anxiety happened. The worst platforms was Snapchat, and the worst one was Instagram. So Snapchat and Instagram were the worst ones. They affected people's mental health the worst. And they think that might be because, you can put up pictures and images and that. The one that was best for positive mental health and well-being was YouTube. Okay, so even that, so obviously it's good to have a limit, but even likewise, you can mix it up sometimes as well. If you're on the Snapchat too long, you can go back into YouTube because it's better for your mental health. But if you want to have a complete break from it, often I ask people about this. So, what are some things you can do? And everyone goes, oh, I'm just met with a blank answer. Okay, so what I put on the slides there is Wikipedia has a whole lot of list of hobbies, and if you just put that into Google, that'll bring up a whole list of things you can look at. Okay, so the next thing there I think is breathing exercise. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is breathing's interesting. Okay, breathing is the body's natural way of being able to relax and settle the like mind. Okay, and it's very important. Like if you think of someone like Johnny Sexton or any of the rugby players who kick goals, you see them doing their breaths. Okay, the reason they are doing the breathing is that because they just want to settle their mind and slow things down. As human beings, when we start to get stressed out or when we start to panic, we speed up. Okay, our thoughts start to race, we get self-conscious, are they looking at me? Our actions can speed up, we want to just get out of a place sometimes. So it's very important that we slow things down, and that's why breathing is helpful. Okay, the other good thing about breathing is it's still free. Okay, we're not charged for it yet, but government isn't charging us for it, and we can bring it around with us as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do a little demonstration of breathing. You guys don't have to do it. I wouldn't want to put anyone on the spot. So I'm going to do about 4 or 5 breaths, okay, just to show you what I mean by breathing, and hopefully I don't fall asleep. Okay, so you can see me there. So, okay, so I'm just going to do about 4 or 5. Okay, right. So I'll just talk a little bit about that. Did you notice how quiet it was? Okay, so you try and breathe in through your nose and out through your nose, okay? And you want to be probably wondering where I am. But anyway, the thing is that with the breathing is that you want it to be quiet. If you can hear your breath going through your nose and you're breathing too hard, and what you want to do is you want to bring your breath down into your stomach, into your belly, and as you breathe out, your stomach goes, as you breathe in, sorry, your stomach goes out, and as you breathe out, your stomach goes in. As you breathe in, stomach goes out, and as I breathe out, my stomach comes in. The reason why that is important is because it actually carries the breath all the way down, okay? And the important thing about breathing is that it isn't for everyone, but I've met a lot of people who have found it really, really good. And the reason why it's important is because it just slows you down, okay? In this modern world, with speed the whole time, and all it does, it just slows it down and it gets you to focus your brain onto something else. A lot of males actually find this good. So the important thing is when you practice the breathing is do it when you're feeling calm. Okay, often when people practice doing the breathing, they do it when they're feeling anxious or panicky or stressed. They go, oh, it's useless, it doesn't work. The problem with that is that you're trying to do it at a too hard a point. It's like learning to drive. If you learn to drive, you don't learn to drive on the highways during rush hour. You learn to drive on the parking spaces or the quiet streets. It's the same thing with the breathing. Practice it when you're feeling calm, okay? The other thing is that when you are doing it, don't get too caught up in is my right hand or my left hand, you know, what way is it meant to go? I'm more interested in the fact that you have 5 minutes, maybe twice a day, where you just stop and you just slow down, okay? And when you do it, don't expect too much. Don't expect to be a Buddhist monk or anything like that. Just say to yourself, I'm going to give it a go twice a day over a couple of weeks, and I'm just going to see if I get anything from it. And I've given you an example there, I think, on the slides is a diaphragmatic breathing demonstration from Michigan Medicine. If you type that into YouTube, there's a lady there who'll be able to show you how to do it. It's just something worth trying, you know. As I said, it isn't for everybody, but a lot of people who I do it with has found it useful. The other final thing to talk about the tip for mental health is helping others. Okay, when we help others, we feel better about ourselves, we feel good about ourselves. Opening a door, giving someone a compliment, saying thank you, offering to carry something for like somebody, it all makes us feel better. It makes us feel good in ourselves. Now, I'm not saying going out there to start offering to like do chores for your parents, doing chores is never fun. But the point is that when we're nice and when we're good to other people, it just makes us feel good about ourselves. And that's often overlooked in like mental health. That, you know, people will like talk about strategies and exercise and stuff, which is important. But when you help other people, it makes you feel good about yourself. So I'm just looking here in the summary now. So I'll just go to the next slide. So yeah, just with summary, it's completely natural and normal. I know to feel anxious at the moment. Okay. So that's what I talked about earlier, that because we're in uncertain times, it's completely natural and normal to feel anxious because we don't know how things are, and anxiety is just one of those emotions that happens when we feel uncertain. But this will pass, it's starting to pass, the signs are there, and you know, we're starting to come out of this, which is good. Okay. The important thing is to keep in contact socially with people and to get out of the house every day. Because what happens to me, or what I tend to notice with people who we have probably, or people who struggle the most, is that when things start to become hard for people, they can start to isolate. They withdraw into their room, they stop seeing friends, they stop leaving their house, they stop doing the interest. And when you withdraw, everything becomes harder. So it's always important to like keep in contact with people and keep out of the house, especially during the tough times when you're not feeling the best. Now, if you need some additional supports, I've just written down here on the next slide there, is here's just some numbers and stuff of people. I think just on the next slide there, Kay, would that be able to come up? I'll go through them anyway, even if the numbers aren't coming up on the screen. So one of the things we have is, oh, there they go, is Spun Out. So this is stuff you probably know. This is a website set up for information for people aged 16 to 25 and has information on everything about schooling, employment, physical and mental health, and they also have a supportive tech service. Samaritans is there as well. It isn't for everybody because they're not really offer too much advice, but if you want to talk to somebody or you need to talk to somebody, that's them and their number there. Jigsaw is a place where they do counselling on mental health for people, one-on-one counselling for ages 12 to 25 years. And I think at the moment we're going to shift to online counselling. And the last one is Peter House. That's for if things are getting very severe for you, if you're having thoughts of suicide or if you're self-harming, and they're a good service to contact. They have a lot of places open across Ireland, and most of their referrals are for people in their teenage years, so and in the early 20s. So they're very well used to dealing with people such as yourself and your age range. And always just to say, my viewers, always seek help sooner rather than later. The sooner you can see people, the better the outcome in. And people improve. Okay, that's what's great about my job. I've been doing it for 20 years. People I see, the vast majority of people improve. And so, you know, always get help if you need it. And with your mental health, don't overcomplicate it. It's the simple things that actually work, like those simple things that I talked about earlier. So that's the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you've got any questions, feel free to fire away.
Oh, thank you very much, Kelly, for that informative session on mental health. I do have some questions for you from some of our participants. One question is, what if people who use alcohol or drugs to escape their painful realities, how else can they escape? Is there another option?
Yeah, see, the alcohol, like if alcohol and drugs is a big problem, you know, and generally, you know, it's, if you're on alcohol and drugs, you know, there's sort of two ways you can go about it, but generally, and with the people who we see in our mental health, you generally have to come off those. So you have to get in like contact with alcohol services and stuff like that. People can still stay on it and they can manage their mental health, but you've got to be, you know, in mental health, you've got to look at the full picture. So, you know, if people stay on alcohol and drugs, and they still have to be looking at like doing some work or staying connected to like people who aren't using drugs and alcohol. But generally, you know, you kind of have to come off those kind of things. The reason being is because it's a physical addiction. So if, you know, if you're using alcohol and drugs, your body is actually craving it. So you have to kind of come off that. Now, depends how much you are. In the serious cases, some people will have to come into hospital where they'll need medication and stuff like that to come off the alcohol. But generally, you know, if you're doing it, and like a good example would be, you know, and I guess people who get socially anxious, okay, and so they might go down and throw loads of alcohol down them so that they can talk to other people. Now, I'm being straight up. That's what some people do anyway. So some people, you know, lots of people might do that when they're younger. But if you're finding that you're having to rely on alcohol or drugs just to get through the day, then you really have to start to come off it, you know.
Oh, that's very good.
Kind of, yep. So just straight up there, you know, if it's a problem, then you have to address the alcohol in that first, and then you can look at other things to work on, such as your mental health.
Oh, that's very good. Thank you very much. I have another question here for you, Kelly. The question is, how do you stop yourself from withdrawing, especially when times are tough? So you have the inclination to withdraw. How do you stop yourself from doing so?
Yeah. What you do there is you you start off small. Okay, so for instance, you know, it depends. So just say, for example, someone starts to isolate themselves in the house. Okay, and they're staying in the room and they're not moving. So where you start off with, okay, the important thing is that when you get out and about, okay, you do the easiest thing. Okay, so you have to be, if you're not 90% certain you can do it, don't do it. Okay, so the easiest thing might be, you know what, I'm spending a lot of time in the house. I'm just going to go for a walk around the block for like 20 minutes. Okay, now if it's easier for you to do that at night time where people don't see you, do it at night time where people don't see you. If it's easier for like you to do it in the morning, do it in the morning. If you can't walk around the block, but it's easier for like you to sit out in your garden, sit out in your garden. Okay, so too often people, if they start to withdraw or isolate, they try and go for the hard thing, like I'm going to go into town and go watch a film or a movie or something like that, but it's too hard. Okay, you've got to start off with the easiest thing first, and this is important, but when you do it, you need to do it for at least 20 minutes. Okay, so if you're starting to withdraw into the house, it's all about getting out of a house. Okay, then you need to get out, but you need to get out for at least 20 minutes. The reason why it needs to be for at least 20 minutes is that because if you went out of a house but you only did it for 5 minutes, then you think that you kind of fluked it. Okay, oh yeah, I went out and then I rushed out and then I went back home. If you get 20 minutes, it enables you to feel those feelings of being anxious and uncertain. And when you face things, that's how you're going to feel. Okay, if you haven't been out of a house for a while and you start to get out of a house, you're going to feel anxious, and that's normal. But as I said, be 90% certain you can do it. And when you do it at least 3 to 4 times a week. Okay. Why? Because mental health loves the routine. And if you walk around the block and you're finding that, you know, the first time you do it, just do the same walk again and again and again, 3 to 4 times a week. It has to be that regular, 3 to 4 times a week. And then once that gets easier for you, then you might go for a little bit of a longer walk, or you might start to then go down to your local shops. Okay. The other thing too is keeping in contact with friends and that. But in terms of like mental health, you know, you really, if you're starting to withdraw, you really got to get out of the house. And if it's becoming a real problem, you know, then obviously try and like talk to like someone through Jigsaw and stuff like that. And just to add to that point is that I would say that the 3 biggest causes of mental health that I see is, number 1 is lack of sleep. Okay, so as I said earlier, if you're not sleeping for 4 or 5 nights, you're going to know about it. The second one is isolation. Okay, so people start to have problems and they start to isolate themselves. The third one is alcohol and drugs. I put isolation above alcohol and like drugs. Okay, that's how like bad it is. So if you're starting to isolate, try and get yourself out. Do things you're 90% certain of. Okay, keep in contact with friends and stuff like that. If that's not working, then look at like maybe trying to get some help through some of those numbers and that. But lots of people have that. That's almost like the like human way of trying to manage mental health. As things are getting tough, I'm going to isolate. Like, get yourself out there, make it easy for yourself. I have a saying, go down the path of least resistance. You're 90% certain you can do something, go and do it for 20 minutes and then do that 3 to 4 times. Once you get used to that, add in something else.
That's great, Kelly. So informative. I have one more question for you, or 2 more, I should say. How can you manage stress with education and your personal life?
Okay, so as I said there, managing stress is that, you know, the goal is you are going to get stressed. Okay, so often people think, okay, to manage stress, I'm going to do it and I'm not going to get stressed. Okay, but it's physically impossible to do that. Stress and anxiety is something that comes along when we think something's going to be hard or a challenge for us. Okay, so for example, if you were going to do the exams, now I know the exams are off, so most of you are probably feeling good about it because you don't actually have to sit an exam now, but I bet you if you were going to go sit the exam, you're going to feel stressed. Okay, stress is actually trying to help you there. Okay, because what stress is doing is that when we get stressed, our heart starts to pound, we feel the butterflies in the stomach, our jaws get a bit tense, but that's our body trying to give you the energy to sit through a 3-hour exam. If you went if you weren't stressed and I said to you, okay, you're going to sit down and sit a 3-hour exam, there's no way you would actually do it. So stress is trying to give you the energy to actually sit that exam. So a little bit of stress is good. Where it becomes a problem is when it leads into panic. Okay, and so the way that you deal with a panic, as I said earlier in the talk, is that's when you have to slow things down. When we get panicky, we tend to speed things up. So when you get stressed, that's either where a bit of breathing can help, or sometimes a bit of self-talk, saying, you know what, I'm meant to feel a little bit stressed, but I've got this feelings will pass. Saying to yourself too, that this constant feeling of stress doesn't always hang around. It can pass sometimes as well. So the important thing to bear in mind is a little bit of stress is good, but when it's getting too much, slow yourself down. If you're doing exams and stuff like that, always be organized so that you're not rushing, and just slow it down. Slow things down, your breathing, your movement. Sometimes you have to ground yourself. I feel my feet on the floor here, you can feel my thumb in the seat. Sometimes you just have to ground yourself. So I guess what I'm saying is to be organized, to be prepared, but to accept, you know what, I'm actually meant to feel stressed here because it's going to be a hard thing. And if you find yourself getting too panicky, slow yourself down.
And our final question for you, Kelly,
No worries.
is how can we manage bad thoughts? So when bad thoughts come into our heads, how do we manage that? Do you have any advice on that?
Great question. Great question. Okay. I was actually going to talk about this in the seminar, but I thought, you know what, that we wouldn't have had enough time. But so I'm actually glad that someone's asked me the question. There's actually 3 types of thinking. Okay. There's negative thinking. Okay. So some examples of that is I'm useless, I'm a failure, no one likes me, I'm no good, I'm a burden. There's nothing subtle about negative thinking. It gets you, right? And it tends to be short and punchy. Then there is positive thinking. Okay, which is no, I'm a strong person, things will work out, believe in yourself, all of that kind of stuff. The problem with a positive thinking is that if you're feeling down on yourself and beating yourself up, it's too much of a jump. If you're feeling bad and you're feeling terrible and then you're saying, well, I'm a strong person, it doesn't kind of work. Okay, you're only saying it to try to make yourself feel better, and negative thinking is all over that. The third type of thinking, okay, but a lot of people don't know about, it's called neutral thinking. Okay, and neutral thinking is just describing what's around you. So for instance, a neutral thought would be Kelly is talking, or a neutral thought would be the walls are yellow. Okay, or neutral thinking might be the table is brown. Okay, or I am a person. So it's just describing things, but it's 100% truth. Okay, how do you know that Kelly is talking? Because Kelly is talking. How do you know my wallpaper is yellow? Is because it's yellow. Okay, so the advantage of neutral thinking is that negative thinking finds it harder to fight. So the good thing about neutral thinking, okay, if we're going to bring this into your day, is that just start to note. Okay, well actually I'll just start again. What you want to do is you want to put some of this neutral thinking into your head so that the negative thinking isn't there the whole time. So during your day, just note during your day 3 or 4 things that you did. Okay, so for instance, I got out of bed today. Good, put that into your head. I got out of bed today. I got dressed. Okay, I got dressed. Now, how do you know you got out of bed? Because I got out of bed. You can't argue that. How do you know that you got dressed? Because you got clothes on. Okay, so if you have bad thoughts, start putting in some of these neutral thoughts. Okay, and that's all it is. You know, maybe 6 or 7 of these thoughts to say, I got out of bed today. That's it. I got dressed. That's it. I came along to a seminar. That's it. Okay, so sometimes some people, what I do is at the end of each day, I'll get them just to think about 6 or 7 things that they did over the day. And that's why I said earlier, you have to leave the house. Today, I left the house. So that's it. You just make them a matter of fact, a statement. I got dressed. I got out of bed. I talked to somebody. I did a seminar. Okay, and those thoughts, you just put them into your head. You'll still have those negative thoughts floating around, but you're just starting to put these other thoughts into your head. And the other thing, as I said to you earlier, your mind is a task manager. So if you say to yourself, I'm going to notice 3 things that went well or okay, your mind will start to look for 3 things that went well or okay during the day. And when you start looking for things that went well or okay, your mind will start to like look for like more of it. So that's just a concept there, and that's called neutral thinking, that we put different thoughts into our brain to help go against the negative thoughts.
Oh,
So is that kind of okay? But so just if you do something, say, you know what, I got out of bed, job done. I got dressed, job done. And that just helps to fight those negative thoughts. The other thing I'll just add on that there is I have this other strategy called call it for what it is. So just say you're going to meet up with friends and you're going out for, to catch up, and you're thinking, oh, no one likes me, or do I sound like an idiot, or who's going to do they really like me? That's your negative mind getting away from you. So call it for what it is. It's just state the facts. I'm going to talk to my friends. That's it. I'm having a meal. I'm talking to friends. I'm at a talk. That's it. So all of it, insecurities, do people like me? How am I getting along? Do I sound like an idiot? That's your negative mind jumping on it. So sometimes just bring it back to, you know what? I'm just talking to friends. That's it. That kind of sound okay? I didn't want to get into it.
Yes, that's very good. Thank you very much for that informative presentation and for answering our questions. So we're going to go on to our next portion.
Okay, no worries.
Thanks very much, Kelly.
Okay, take care, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a nice time. My name is Labake, and I just want to introduce the last speaker for today. Our last speaker, firstly, she's a woman of God. She's a senior clinical lecturer at Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. She's also a consultant pediatrician at Our Lady of Lourdes. Let us appreciate our one and only Dr. Ireti Obufu in the house. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Can you all hear me? Can everybody hear me? Let me see your thumbs up if you can.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank God for everyone. I really enjoyed the last 2 speakers, and I was actually listening closely just so that I'm not kind of off the tangent, but we thank God for today. I'm going to talk about 3 things. That's what I've been told to talk about, but when I say 3 things, it may go into a few things. All right. I'm going to talk about managing expectations. How do you manage your expectations? Number 2, I'm going to talk about eliminating distractions. Eliminating distractions, away from, what, taking you away from what you ought to be doing. And the last point I'm going to talk on is staying focused, maintaining a can-do-it attitude. Amen. Praise God. So my slide is being shared there. Sorry, that should be Psalm 144, verse 12, actually. Because this whole thing, I believe, is being put together so that each and every one of us, each and every young person hearing me, that if you're a young man, you will be grown up in your youth, you have understanding. And if you're a young lady, you will be sculptured for Palestine, which means you have everything in place the way it ought to be, both spiritually, emotionally, and physically. So talking about managing your expectations, what are expectations? It could be your aspirations, your goals, your plans, your dreams. You didn't just appear on this planet. There is a plan and a purpose to your being here. I'm a believer in that. And if you believe that, many a times when things happen that is out of your control, you go back to your expectations, your goals, your plans, your dreams. Some of us have been stuck at home for the last 6 to 8 weeks. Life hasn't been the way you've planned it to be. Some of us are supposed to be studying for exam at the moment. One moment we're doing it, the next moment we're not. So things have been a bit up and down quite a lot. But that shouldn't affect your own goals. It shouldn't affect your plans, your dreams. Things might be held back for a while, but you've got to keep your eyes on the ball. You've got to make, I believe you've made good use of the time, and if not from today till whenever it is, summer is happening very soon. Maybe not in the way that we wanted it to be, but summer is going to be here in a different way. So things might change, but you have to still keep your eyes on the ball. Your expectation, like I said, leads you to having goals and plans. You set out to achieve this thing. I don't know what they call it New Year resolution, or what you plan to do December, last year when you were putting things together in your head. Whatsoever those things are, don't overlook them. Don't take them away from your focus. Now, I think Pastor Clem rightly talked about, choosing your goals, your careers, making your plans. And I'm just going to add to that quickly, because that determines your expectation of yourself. You have to make your plans based on your gifting, not just your gifting, but your interest. Because you could be very clever and you just H1 in everything. But if you don't match that with your interest, it might affect your expectations of yourself, okay? So when you're managing that, you need to look at, okay, I'm good at this, but I know I can do this, but can I do this for the rest of my life? Many of you have heard me say that. It is your interest, your passion that will keep those aspirations on. When you're called out of bed at 2 a.m., you want to sleep, but you have a patient to see as a doctor, okay? So many a times you need to really bring that back. Okay, this is my interest. This is my niche. My passion is to bring solution. My passion is to, be a blessing to other people. So it's very, very important that you choose your goals, your careers, and everything based on your niche, on your giftings, and on your interests. Very important. So that's point number one under your expectation. The next thing I put down there, the center. You've got to keep God in the center of everything. You didn't come to existence by Big Bang Theory. I don't care what theories are out there. It's obvious who is in charge of the whole world right now. You all understand? So you have to keep God in the center. Why? 1 Corinthians 13:9 says, we only know in part. We don't know everything. So we've got to keep the one who knows everything in the center of our lives. Isaiah 46:10 says, he determines the end from the beginning. So you've got to really keep God in the center of everything. Amen. Jeremiah 1:5 says, before I formed you, I knew you. God decided how he was going to make you, whether he was going to make you a boy or a girl. Irrespective of what is being done out there, okay? Now, he made you. He put you in the family that he put you. He is allowing you to go through everything that you have gone through. But I'm a believer, like I was saying earlier on, God does not waste crisis. It doesn't matter what is bringing stress and everything. Keep God in the center of your life. Go back to him. And God is not a God that is so far away. You've got to consult with him when you're making your plans. Have a conversation with him regularly. God is not afraid for you to tell him, you know what, God, I'm feeling quite stressed right now. I expect to have finished this, but I haven't. So God, I actually feel so, I don't want to panic. So God, just talk to me. And sometimes you begin to hear, lo, I am with you always. You begin to hear in your spirit, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. You've got to have that close contact with him so that you can go to him at any time. And God is not holding a stick over your head. I don't care what you've done right, what you haven't done right. God is a good God. He's a faithful God. He's looking out for you. So make conversation with him regularly about your aspirations, about your expectations of yourself as well. And don't have an expectation that you feel, okay, it's just so irrelevant. It's very important that you just keep God in the center so that your aspirations and your goals, you can go back to talk to him. Let him know how you feel about everything. He knows your thoughts anyway. He knows everything from afar. Psalm 139 alluded to that God knows everything about you. He knows you're rising up. He knows you're sitting down. So talk to him regularly. Even if you can't find anybody to talk to at that moment in time, talk to God. Let him know how you feel. Don't just talk to him like that. Ask him for wisdom. What do I do in this situation? This is my expectation that I should do this. God, what do I do? James 1:5 said, you should ask for wisdom, because God gives liberally this wisdom. He gives it out to you. Ask him for wisdom. Ask him to help you. The Bible says in Proverbs 3:6, he said, in all your ways, acknowledge him. Whether it has to do with your career, your classes, your courses, how you're feeling in your body, physically, emotionally, talk to him about everything. Ask him for wisdom to deal with that person in your, one of your classmates that just really you're having a hard time with. Talk to him about your lecturer that doesn't feel like you're going to make it. Talk to him about everything, because he is there for you. He's for you, he's not against you. He even says, he said, I know the thoughts that I think towards you. The thoughts of good, not of evil, but thoughts to bring you to the expected end, to make sure that your expectations are, is realized. Amen. The next point, I put it there, I just don't feel like, okay? Because this is what you all commonly say. Why are you not doing this? I just don't feel like it. Why are you not doing that? I just don't feel like it. You know what that is? That's slothfulness. So my next point is that avoid laziness. Don't be lazy. Do not be lazy. Don't settle for less because you can't be bothered. Don't go and do a course that you, at the end of the day, because it's easy to get into, and if you just apply yourself a little bit more, if you just push yourself a little bit more, you will achieve better. So don't settle for less. Do not be lazy. Don't be lazy. God is a hardworking God, and he doesn't expect you to be lazy, because if you do that, you will be depriving the world of what God has put on the inside of you. I'm going to read quickly. Hebrews 6:12. It says that you do not become sluggish, but imitate those who through faith and patience inherit the promises. Don't be lazy. Don't be too lazy to read the word of God. Don't be so lazy that you only read one verse a day when you can read a chapter. Don't just look at yourself and say, I can't be bothered. Laziness will actually reduce the manifestation of your expectation. Don't look at yourself and say, oh, I'm just going to do this, and just don't do it anyhow. No, avoid slothfulness, avoid being lazy. It is not what God has called you to do. Romans 12:11, sorry, I'm just going to run you through the Bible, because that is the only way I know to do these things. By the grace of God, like Paul said, I am what I am, and that which has made me who I am, I'm sharing with you. Amen. Romans 12:11, it says, I'm going to read quickly. Not lagging in diligence, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. Don't be slothful. Don't do things anyhow. Now, I'm not asking you to be a perfectionist, but if you can do something and do it better, do it to the best of your ability. The enemy of excellence is not good. The enemy of excellence is average. I will just do it just to get by. You don't know. There are many people, many of you are going to be, I'm just praying and believing God for many people who will be caught in this predictive marking thing for your living cert. Because people will look at you and they will look at how maybe you did your mock or how you have spent your time, and then they're going to mark you based on that. I'm praying for the mercy of God, because some of you have left it till so late. And now you didn't know that this was going to happen. And now this is the way it's going to be. But thank God for his mercy. His mercy endures forever over you. My next point is your time management. Manage your time well. We all have the same amount of time. Whether you are rich, poor, old, or young, we all have the same amount of time. Now, the outcome of your days depends on what you spend your time on. What you invest your time in will become evident in time. If you don't work on your time so that what you expect of yourself or what people expect of you, if you don't look at them and work your time so that you can achieve something, don't blame anybody for the outcome. And where you are is not where things even, is not the end of where you're going to be, because you can't look and say, oh, because I come from this family. This doesn't come into your time management. Spend time on what is important. The outcome of your expectation, I put down, depends on the management of your time and what you invest it in. I will say it again. The outcome of your expectations depends on how you manage your time and what you invest your time in. If you spend your time on social media, guess what? you will get the result of that. Like Kelly said, too much being on social media, oh, they didn't like my picture. You're too busy putting up your picture. Let me go and see how many likes, how many doesn't like. The amount of pictures that you have put on is not going to determine your H1 or your H2 or how they're going to do your predictive marketing. But don't worry, there's mercy in the house. Amen. The outcome of your time depends on what you spend your time in. 24 hours is what we all have. To the glory of God, people ask me, how do you do all these things? I redeem the time. There's some things that I do in the car. There's some things, if I know that, okay, some people want to talk to me, I say, talk to me on my way home, because I know that when I get home, I need to be able to spend time with my family. When I'm on call, I'm on call. Sometimes if I can squeeze it, and I do. You manage your time well. Don't spend it using all the time that you don't have, reading stories that are not true about you or about other people. People are putting out their polished side of themselves. They're putting out what they expect of themselves. To everything, Ecclesiastes chapter 3 says, there is a time. For every season, there is a time. Don't use the time that you're supposed to be studying so that you can achieve that with God as destined for you. Don't use it doing other negative things. Amen. I'm going to limit it to that. So, because in question time, I might be able to answer a few things. The next thing I want to talk about is how do you eliminate distractions? And the first thing I have done for myself is that we all have distractions. There are things there to distract you. Sometimes you're sitting down and you're focusing on maybe writing a paper because you want to make sure that you get that paper to be published. And then somebody comes into the office and they want you to do something now for now. It might be a good thing, but at that point in time, it may be a distraction for you. So you have to kindly and, nicely tell them, do you mind if I attend to that later? That's a distraction that you need to be aware of. Your ability to eliminate distraction is dependent on a number of factors. I have 4 of them put on there. The D word. You have to be disciplined. Disciplined enough to say no to certain things. Discipline is a word and is an action that you must grow to love if you're going to eliminate distractions. Because generally your distraction will appear more fun. You want to study, you want to kind of cover 2 chapters, and then you get a text from your friend, you want to hang out. And then the whole thing, that's it. That you put an end to your own plan. You see, you have to be aware that, okay, this might be fun right now, but it's not going to get me to where I really want to go. So your goals, your aspirations can be a bit more tedious. It takes time. Okay, and may not be as exciting at the beginning or even during the process, but discipline is what is going to help you to get there. You set out to achieve a purpose and you get yourself disciplined enough. Kind of discipline is like a self-government. You govern yourself. You decide when you're going to, the government is deciding when we do this, when we do that now. They're trying to use discipline so that we can overcome this pandemic. Now, you've got to practice that to yourself so that you can have your own. Thanks, Jermaine. It's a practice. You can have your own things that you're doing so that you can achieve what you want to do. Okay, you've got to be disciplined. This is why in making your plans, you have to choose something that is of interest to you. Because if you're doing something that you're not interested in, you can easily get distracted by anything else. Have you heard of those people, they've studied all night, they've achieved what they want to achieve, they've covered all the chapters, and then they want to come and hang out in your room so that they can hang out with you and play with you, whereas they have already, covered what they want to cover. If you're not disciplined enough, you'll not be able to show them the door and say, you know what, John, I still have another chapter to cover. Do you mind if we defer that? So discipline will cause you to say no to anything that will distract you from achieving your. That's a big distraction that you have to be able to say no to, which is why in making your plan, you've got to focus on something that is of interest to you. Some of you have heard me say it many times, that sometimes you've got to do this so that in answering, in being the solution that God has caused you to be, you are answering a question in the human race. You are filling a gap that nobody else can. Yes, there might be many other people, there may be many other doctors, many other pediatricians, but there's only one of me, and nobody can be me like me. And that doesn't mean that everybody else is not important, but when I have that kind of focus, I'll be disciplined to make sure that I'm the best version of me. Like I always say, there's no point in being a bad copy of a bad original when you can be a good original of yourself. Okay? A copy is never as good as the original. And then if you're copying a bad original, forget it, the copy will be bad. So just be a good original of yourself. And how did Paul put this? In Philippians chapter 3, verse 13, this is what he did. It takes discipline to press. It takes discipline to push forward. It takes discipline to say no to anything that seems so nice and seems so easy for you to get into. He said, I press. When you're pressing, it means there's some things that are trying to come against your progress. He said, I press. That's in Philippians chapter 3, verse 13. Thanks. Brethren, I count it means I haven't arrived. I haven't achieved what I want to achieve. But this one thing I do, I forget those things that are behind. Those are distractions. When the enemy reminds you of your past, remind him you're going to end in a different place. So focus. Forget the past failures, even forget the past successes. You're as good as you are now. Press, reach forward. It's going to take discipline for you to press. First Corinthians chapter 9, verse 27, he said something similar to that. He said, after I've preached to many, he said, I keep pressing on, I keep disciplining myself. In order for me to achieve what I need to achieve, I've got to discipline myself. Say no to certain things that seem very appealing, and the discipline will keep you going. Thing, I think I put there, watchful. If you're not aware that something could happen, when it happens, you could be absorbed into it and you could be distracted by it. Be very, very watchful, both spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Don't be ignorant of the schemes of the enemy. Enemy will not come to you and say, I want to distract you today. He will come with something that is of interest to you. He will come with something that he knows that if he shows it to you, you will be able to be distracted. Those are schemes. Those are devices. Those are plans that the enemy used to take you away from those things. But you have to be watchful. If you're watchful, if you keep your focus, you will be able to know that, okay, I have to say no to. I have to move away from this. In 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11, this is what it says. Lest Satan should take advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of the devices of the enemy. Now, the things that may distract you may not be things that will distract you. So know those things. Be watchful of those things that can distract you and avoid them. Watch out for them. It could be, like I said, it could be gadgets. Even sports can be a distraction. Be very watchful. I'm all for sports. I'm all for exercise. Be involved in any kinds of sport is good for your brain, because when you do sports, it actually releases some hormones called endorphins, and that actually gets you going, which is why when you get out of bed in the morning and you do your 100 squats before you go to work, and I'm not making it up, you can easily do 100 squats before you go to work, okay? It takes about 3 or 4 minutes to do, and you can mix it up with a few more things in between. So take 10 minutes in the morning and just do that. And when you do that, it releases certain things, you know, that will help you. So you've got to be aware of the fact that sports, if you throw yourself too much into it and all that you're seeing, all that you're dreaming about is sports, it could actually distract you from achieving something that God has destined for you. There was a question that came for, I think, Pastor Clem about, you know, sport, and I thank God for him. And I don't know if he's still there. Thank you so much for the way you actually handle that. That sports is a hobby. And if you look at sports, and this is not to knock you off your horses of being a sportsman, their career is very short-lived. By 35, 40, they're done. So what do? And that's if nothing happens to them. I don't know what Usain Bolt is doing right now, but you know what? He's retired now from sports. So be very aware that you need to do something that will give you longevity, that will see you more into the future. Make sure that you harness that gift on the inside of you, that People will come, they will come looking for you wherever you are. Okay, that's just a quick digression there. Be careful, be watchful about social media. I believe, yes, we're all zooming all over the world, we're all communicating. I believe social media, that's what it is for. It is not meant to be a distraction. But many people, they go from Snapchat to Instagram to Facebook, instead of putting their face in his book, as I jokingly say, they go from one thing to the other. If you're going to be going from one to the other, make sure that it's something that will actually contribute to your progress. Be conscious of it. Consciously avoid those things that will take you away from your goals. Get distracted. In terms of in the scripture, and oh, I would say something when should choose his friends carefully. There's no dressing it up, which means you take a choice who your friends are. You may not be able to your classmates are because people are interested in the same thing you're doing. It said the righteous should choose his friends carefully, for the way of the wicked leads them astray. So if you choose people that are not really into even your progress, either directly or indirectly, they're not going to be a blessing to you. They're going to be a distraction. So choose carefully. And if you think you have it all together, distracted, 1 Corinthians 10:12 says this: let him stand, heed, lest he fall. Even your auntie, I'm still very, very cautious. I'm very cautious about who I let into my space. I love everybody, but there's a space in my life that to go. I mean, I hope this is not coming across in a very holy Jesus Christ. He sent out the crowd. Around him. Okay, so you've got to really focus on this, that okay, you need to be very careful who you let into your space. The next point I want to make is that I put your drive. You've got to maintain your drive. You might be an introvert or an extrovert or an overt. I don't care what vert you are. You understand? You've got to have tenacity to maintain your drive. Isaiah 57 says, set your face like a flint. Keep your attention on what is important. There will be time for you to gallivant, to do everything, but there is a time for everything. Maintain your drive. Set your face like a flint. Keep your attention on what is important. Watch out and avoid distraction. Be aware that the enemy is always looking for opportune times. When you're tired, when you don't feel like, when you're studying and it's not going in, that's not the time to go on Snapchat. It's either you need to sleep or you need to read the word or listen to the word or listen to music. You understand? That's what you need at that time. Maintain your drive. Don't follow a parked car. Some of your friends, some of the people in your space, they are parked cars. They're not going anywhere. So why will you stand behind them? If you stand behind a parked car, you may not be able to move on. So keep your drive going. Even our Lord Jesus Christ, the enemy tried to come at him. You remember the temptation in Luke chapter 4? And then he said, and then the Bible finished that temptation scriptures. He said, and he left him till an opportune time. He was waiting for when he's a little bit more vulnerable, when he can bring ideas again. Your friends are always looking when you have read something on yourself on social media and you're feeling so bad about yourself. And then some of them will come and say, no, let's just go and hang out. Hang out doing what? I will come to that shortly. You know, but when Jesus Christ came in Luke chapter 22 was the opportune time that the enemy came. He said, you know, when he felt, it's like, God, let this cup pass over me. Is there any other way we can save the world without me dying? Because he remembered the nails. He was aware of the thorns and everything. So he knows all of that. So at that time, he just decided, God, I really don't want to do this. But he immediately prayed, said, Father, not my will, but let your will be done. And I love what it says in Luke chapter 22. He said, immediately the angels came and ministered strength to him. So when you feel distracted and you don't feel like going on, you've got to, like I said at the beginning, have conversation with your Heavenly Father and say, God, nobody really understands, but I'm coming back to you. Give me the grace to push through this. So be aware of your opportune time and maintain your drive. Man alone cannot give you what you need. Your parents will present you with opportunity. They will take you, they will encourage you, okay? There will be opportunity. There will be encouragement from your parents. They will do all of that. But if you don't apply yourself, you've got to apply yourself. They may give you opportunity, but it's your gift that will bring you to significance. Proverbs 18:6 says, a man's gift will make room for him. Amen. My next point is accountability, because that will protect you. You've got to hold yourself accountable. My heart breaks when I see many people that say, oh, all these parents, they don't understand us. And then you people, sometimes you classify African parents. They don't understand us. You understand? Doesn't matter whether they're African, Caucasian, or whatever parent. God has given them opportunity to bring you into the world. They're not perfect, but you've got to hold yourself accountable to trustworthy people. And unfortunately, I know, and some people don't have the opportunity of people like that in their life, but find somebody, hold yourself accountable to them. You may even find friends that you can just say, oh, this is what is happening in my life. It's a form of discretion that will keep you from distractions. Keep yourself, hold yourself accountable. Sometimes you might have to give details of your last 24 hours, because when you tell God, I'm sorry, but when you have to give account to somebody physical, you yourself, you will realize that, no, I need to keep things right. And the scriptural basis for that is 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 5. You can read that when you have time, or if I can get to it. Hold yourself accountable. Accountability keeps you from being distracted. Because if you tell me that you're going to do certain things at certain time, if I ask you, Simi, have you finished what you told me you were going to finish? Because you know you have to tell me, you will be watchful about how you spend your time. Likewise, you younger people, 1 Peter 5:5, submit yourself to your elders. Yes, all of you be submissive to one another and be clothed with humility. You see, because God resists the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. If you release yourself to people, if you submit yourself to people and you hold yourself accountable, they will be able to help you, they'll be able to guide you. Even if you've done something wrong, they will take your hand and they will pray with you and get you through. So hold yourself accountable, and that will actually prevent you from being too distracted. My last point that I want to talk on is staying focused. There's lockdown. You can only do so much. You wake up and you see your brother and your sister and you really just want to, it has just put you in a space that you possibly didn't plan to be in. But you know what? You've got to plan your days. In order for you to be focused, you've got to plan your day. Don't go to bed without a framework for what you will do the following day. Don't go to bed without planning the following day, especially in this time where you seem to have 24 hours of maybe nothing. You could have 24 hours of nothing if you do not plan. But you've got to plan. When you plan, you've heard of saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. But let me add this. If you don't plan your day, someone or something else will plan it for you. If you don't decide what you're going to do. Let me give you an example. Every Friday before I leave work, no matter how tired I am, what I do is I will look at it, I will put each day of the following week down and what I need to do. When I have clinic, when I have to do ward round and all of that. So that gives me an idea of my week, you know. Plan so much that you will be able to stay and keep your focus and keep yourself on track. And when I've achieved each day, I put a cross, I cross it out. And you feel so fulfilled. You should try it. Plan your day. Don't go to bed without your plan for the following day. so that nothing else will come and defocus you. And it could end up being a spiral down motion. Have you ever found out you wanted to do something and then something else came into that space, and before you know it, you couldn't go back to what you really plan to do? So plan your day very well. Be focused, because if you don't, you begin to think, oh, I can't do it. It's hard. It's too difficult. And then Proverbs 23:7 says, as a man thinks in his heart, so easy. Okay, you've got to plan and make sure that you tidy things up for yourself. Now, I said another D word, diligence. You've got to be diligent in what you want to do. Diligence, another word you need to add to your vocabulary. Discipline and diligence. The Bible says a man who is diligent in his work will stand before kings, not before mean men, because diligence will have caused him to harness the gifting and the ability that God has given him, such that he may be the only one that can answer some questions. So diligence is very important, okay, in being able to be focused. In order for you to be, you've got to be diligently doing something, irrespective of the season. And let me say this, you might look and say, oh, yippee, no living cert. Oh, I'm going to get a good predicted grade and I'm going to go in and do pharmacy, I'm going to do medicine. But if you don't have the knowledge base for it, you will struggle. That will not be your portion in Jesus' name. But in order for that not to be your portion, you've got to put in the work. You've got to be diligent. Study now so that you can have the knowledge base for the next phase in college, so that they don't throw you out of college. This might be for somebody in the group. Don't say, yippee, there's no living cert. There may not be living cert, but you still need your knowledge base for your college, for your college career. It's very, very important. So be diligent, okay, in what you do, irrespective of the season. Whether you're doing exams, whether you are not, like I said, you need your knowledge base for the next phase. Don't settle for less. Do not settle for less than your worth, because it seemingly is difficult. Do not settle for less. That's laziness. I said it before. Quitters don't win and winners don't quit. So in order for you to win, you must stay in this game. In order for you to excel, you must stay in the game. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24 to 26, it was talking about runners. You know, it said they run excellently. They keep their focus so that they can achieve something. And that's the way you've got to keep your focus as well. I have a boy who runs, he does athletics and basketball, but in terms of his athletics, which is really his number one passion, I told him, I said, you might be in lockdown, but I can't tell you how many times he's run around our back garden. I can't tell you how many times his coach has sent him things to do, just so that he can keep himself fit. And that's what you need to do as a student. You need to put in the knowledge base. There's no point in you going in to do pharmaceutical science without having done physics. There's a girl I was talking to during the week, and she's doing pharmaceutical, but she didn't do physics in living cert. She said, I find it I find it challenging, but I'm getting through it. And it's the same girl that told me that even one of her teachers told her, oh, don't do geography. And she got an H1 in geography. So sometimes people have an expectation because of your performance. But I'm here to tell you, if you are disciplined, if you keep your focus and you are diligent, you can achieve that which God has destined for you. Proverbs 22:29, you've got to really just keep your focus in that place so that you will be diligent in all your work and you will stand before kings. When you have the answer, people will learn to pronounce your name. When they know that there's something significant about you, it doesn't matter what part of the planet you are from. If anybody comes up with solution for coronavirus infection these days, nobody will care where they come from, because of the knowledge, because of the diligence that they're going to be expressing. Now, hold through the E word, endurance. You've got to endure. You've got to be able to endure. When you're going to stay focused, there's some things that are going to come. They're not going to be easy. But it's another word and an action you must learn to love in order for you to stay focused. Endurance is no fun, but you endure because you believe you need to achieve something. When you endure in order to achieve something better than what the distraction is offering, you need to keep your endurance. Hebrews 12. Sorry, I have to read this scripture. This one is a good one to read. Don't you just love God that we have his word for a time such as this? I'm sure many of you have read Psalm 91 like you've never read it before in your life. It's making more sense. It's making more sense to read Psalm 23. It's making more sense looking at Psalm 124 these days. Hebrews 12, verse 1. Therefore, we also, amen, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight. Those weight want to distract you from going on to your destination. You've got to keep your focus so that you can arrive where you want to go. Lay aside every weight of distraction. Keep your focus. And the sin which so easily ensnares us. And let us run with what? With endurance. Endurance, the race that is set before us. Your race is different from mine. I can't be you, so just be the best you for us. Run your race with endurance. And you're not just running it with endurance, you're looking unto Jesus. What did Jesus do? He kept his focus on the cross. He kept his focus on you and I coming into the kingdom for a time such as this. Looking unto Jesus, the author, he initiated it, and the finisher of our faith. When you remember I told you to talk to him about your career. So when you hit a rough patch and you need to endure, he will be there to help you through. And finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him, the joy of your graduation, the joy of achieving something, the joy of being a difference, the joy of being a solution, will keep you going. Who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has now sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. He's got his certificate, he's got his scars to show for it, but he's forever living to make intercession for you and I. So we have no excuse not to be able to endure. He will help us through in Jesus' name. Now, the P and the S word, patience and self-control. I found out that they are both fruits of the Spirit. If you're going to be focused, if you're going to have a can-do-it attitude, you've got to be patient. You've got to have self-control, which means denying yourself of certain things. Both are fruits of the born-again spirit that are relevant in our world today. And unfortunately, they're both lacking in your generation. Everything is drive-through. You want to eat, put it in the microwave. You need something, go to drive-through McDonald's. You understand? Just get it fast, 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 you know? And you all know that fast food is not always good for you, okay? So sometimes you've got to just be patient. Everything is now generation, but you've got to know that not everything is a drive-through. Drive-through breakthrough may not be well done, okay? There's no waiting. You're lacking in this quality because you just want everything now for now. You understand? That could have an impact on your outcome. Patience is a virtue. Self-control is the fruit of the Spirit. Perfection takes time, is never rushed. Perfection is never rushed. It takes time. That's why you didn't get into secondary school 1 year and then you come out the other year. They take their time, precept upon precept, line upon line. They check your knowledge base for every year and then they move you on. Perfection is never rushed. It takes time. It's never rushed, and you've got to be patient to carry through. You see, your generation also love infographics. I put down there infographics. That's on the next slide. You see, you just want everything now for now. This came out of a conversation with my husband. There's a young man that we wanted him to kind of give us a summary of a meeting that we had with a group of young people. And then we said, can we have the summary? One day he couldn't do it, so an adult did it. And he's like, oh, that's too much details. And I said, oh, just give us I'm like, that's infographics. Okay, infographics are easy ways of communicating details. But the content of infographics is dependent on the details. And let me give you this. The person who has the details is at an advantage over the person with the infographics. Not everything in life comes with infographics. That's why you've got to be patient. Let me tell you something. You know, when you want to sign your contract does not come in infographics. They give you like 10 pages or 20 pages to read. And then sometimes when you are signing a contract, they say terms and conditions apply. And you realize that if you don't read through the terms of condition, you don't know what you're signing on for. You don't know what you're signing on to. And the difference between H1 and H3 is sometimes in the details. So don't just focus on infographics. Sometimes you need the details, because that gives you a very good knowledge base, so that when they bring in a question that you don't even like or that you don't know, from the details of the knowledge that you have, you can use the wisdom of God to express it in a very understandable way. Amen. My final word to you all in staying focused and in all of this, have healthy expectations of yourself. Don't keep up with the Joneses. Be happy being a Smith. There's only one of you. When God finished making you, he said it was very good. He said, I can't make another one. I cannot make another Jermaine. I cannot make another Simi. In fact, this one is enough for the world. And God has got good plans for you. So your expectations are good. Stay focused and do the right thing. Why? Philippians 4:13. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Avoid distractions at all costs. Looking unto Jesus. Don't be distracted away from the purpose of God for you. And you know what? Each and every one of you, each and every one of us, we will achieve, we will accomplish our destiny, we will achieve purpose. We will be a solution, we will not be a question mark. People will not look at us and say, why did they have you? But when they look at you, they say, blessed is the womb that carried you. And that will happen when you achieve your purpose in life, when you become a solution, and when you hook up with the Holy Spirit and God to fulfill his plans and his purposes for your life. Amen. I'm done for now. Praise God.
Thank you very much. That was really loaded. I've learned a lot. God bless you, ma.
Amen. Thank you.
I can say loads of questions popping in, but I'm going to start asking them right away. The first question is, how do you know that God has answered your questions? How do you know that God has answered whatever you're asking?
Okay. Now, the Bible says, let the peace of God, be an umpire over your soul. When you have committed your ways to the Lord and you are doing what you should do, you understand what I'm saying? You have the peace that he's got your back. There is a peace that comes when you know that God has heard you. And that's why when you're going to ask God for anything, you must make sure that you have the word of God to back it up. Okay, God, is this going to go away? Am I going to ever feel joyful in myself? Psalm 30 verse 5, it says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. You remember when Kelly was telling you about, okay, the things that you're thinking about? You see, one of the positive things that you can put in your head is that God has promised never to leave me nor forsake me. And when that becomes a reality in your life, when you have tasted and you have seen that is good, there's a peace that comes with that. And that's why my encouragement is for you all to get to know God for yourself. God has no grandchildren. You all know I say that. God has no grandchildren. God wants to be connected with you himself. So the peace of God will be an umpire over your soul. Even things may not have physically changed, but when you have that peace, it actually helps you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, ma. Another question is, how do you overcome procrastination? How do you overcome procrastination?
Okay, just do it. That's the only way you can overcome it. If you have the time to do it there and then, just do it. And then it depends on where it is on your pecking order of things. Just do it. Okay, I'll do this tomorrow. Let me give you an example. If anybody comes in my head to call, and I'm in a position to call them at that time, I do it on the drive. If I think about somebody and I'm still at work, you know what I do? I ask the Holy Spirit, Father, they've just come into my mind. I commit them to you. If I really need to call them, Father, just remind me. And I tell you, 9 out of 10 times, the Holy Spirit will remind me. The 1 out of 10 is because of my own distraction. He's a good God. So he will remind you. So don't procrastinate. Have a plan and say, okay, I'm going to do this. Now, let me put in a caveat there. When you say, okay, I'm going to read, let's say, physiology of something. Sorry, I deal with that. And you're studying and it's not going in at that time. Just put it down and maybe do something else. Either you need to go for a walk or something and then come back to do it. But don't leave it for too long, because if you leave it too long, you will not come back to it. Make time for it if it's important. So don't procrastinate, just do what you have to do.
There is a question that is sent to you privately. It's so long. So yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, let me just go into that. Okay, if you're not sure if your prayer is under, keep praying until, okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at my private chat. Nothing is there. Can you send?
Yeah, it's there, but I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. I'll send
I'm
it
seeing
again.
everybody else slogan, Nike slogan.
Yeah, the Nike question.
Okay, hang on. I have a question. A man's gift, is that the one?
Yes, ma'am, that's the question.
Makes room for him. Can't a man who is gifted at a hobby find a path to other careers through endorsement, representing Nike, Adidas? Yes, I love that. Investment, building their own business, meeting and becoming friends with people who are well established. Yes, you can. That's not impossible. But can you guarantee that in the now for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
That is the point, because you don't know if anybody, you see, if you feel, sorry, just have to give an example of my children. You see, if you feel doing, for instance, maybe my son runs 100 meters in 11.2 seconds, which he did, 11.29, I think. When you go out and you match with somebody else, what if somebody is there that is running it at 11.1? You understand? So, and somebody is there to endorse, and he only has one person to endorse. Even though you are very good, you are excellent at this, they found somebody that is better than you. And then, you know what? You become number 2 in the panel. The only way you're going to get that if the person in number 1 says no. So why would you live your life based on that? Please, by all means, be harnessing all your gift, be harnessing all your passion and everything. But in the now, you've got to do something that you know. You can even do something along that line. You can do something that will not take you too much away from your sport. No, I have children that are in the uni, they're doing their sport and they're still doing their education. So it is still, it can be done. It's the fact that you don't know how man will be slanted and you don't want to put your progress in somebody's hand. That's why I put that men may not be able to give you what you want, but you have to really work to harness it. And just be very careful when you're putting it in things that are short-lived, that are just for the now. That's why I say that. All this only happen when you are the man of the moment. Thank you, Pastor. When you retire, they forget you. Okay. What's the best way to stay connected with God and not to waver? That's another private question.
Yes.
Send me a copy of the note. Don't worry, the note will go to Pastor K, and Pastor, please, just you would dish it out to everybody. I'll forward it to you. Now, what's the best way to stay connected with God and not to waver? Now, it depends on where you're at spiritually. If right now you're a 1 verse a day person, I would say stick with the 1 verse. Meditate on that 1 verse. You know, when Kelly was talking about mindfulness, think about that. Keep that verse in your head, okay? A man's gift will make room for him. How will a man's gift? So this is a gift. I didn't work for it. God just gave me this gift. How can I now harness this gift so that I can be who God wants me to be? So you've got to really roll it over and over and over in your mind, and until it becomes your reality. You see, and then you go from 1 verse to 1 chapter a day. And sometimes you might even study on faith or study on love. There is no way that you can reach God or you can stay connected to God without his word. There's no other way around it. Even Samuel was introduced to God through Rema, which is when he called out to him. But he went to Eli, thinking Eli was the one calling him. So he has practiced himself by submitting himself to the authority that he sees around him. So in order for him to stay connected with God, he has used that as a foundation. So for you to stay with God and not to waver, the best way is to stay in his word and just be yourself, be real with him. I don't talk to God in thous and these. When people upset me, I tell God, I say, God, how could they behave like that? Father, settle me, you know. Sometimes I run into the toilet. Many people have heard me say this. I sit on the toilet seat till my head is together. That is me not wanting to disappoint God in the middle of everything. So the worst way is to involve him in everything that you do, thinking WWJD.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
Thank you so much, Dr. Areti. We have a question here from Children for World Children. He's saying, Dr. Areti, how do we encourage the inactive and the missing in actions teenagers?
Okay. Now, those ones, I think if you are friends with them, I think those are the people you need to meet one-on-one and say, you know, just again, you need to have their confidence and they need to have yours. And don't go to them in a judgmental way that, oh, where were you today? We had such an awesome time. No, because you don't know how they're processing situation in their own mind. So you've got to love them back into the fold. You've got to reach out to them. And many a times, the way to reach people is to be interested in what they're interested in. And if they're interested in something that you feel is not healthy for them, ask them questions about, okay, how is that helping you? Okay, you've been hanging around your friends that drink alcohol. Are you now drinking? I'm not going to judge you based on that, but where does that lead you? Because at the end of this pandemic, guys, I'm worried about Alcoholics Anonymous because they will be flooded with people who has tried to drown this time in alcoholism. So reach those teenagers where they're at. Let them have your confidence. Cover them, pray for them. Don't judge them. Judgment will just push them a little bit more away. Yeah. Don't look and say, oh, there's so much that has been put into you, we expect you to be there. No, don't expect anybody to be anything at any time because you don't know my story. You don't know where I've been. You don't know what is happening in my life right now. So reach them where they ought to be. And then you'll be able to, sorry, my thing is actually going so quickly. So that would be my encouragement. There has to be one of you that is close to them. So reach them and persist. They may say something not so nice to you, but persist. Don't be, you can't afford to be upset with them. You can't afford to be annoyed with them because that's a strategy of the enemy to take them away from the fold. So reach out to them, encourage them, be interested in something that they can be interested in. When I deal with group of youth, I ask them, okay, how can I reach you more? Which way would you like it, you know? Am I supposed to answer this? How, as a sports addict, can I, okay, that's moved away.
There is one that I've sent to you, Ma, about...
How do you know the path of career?
Yes, Ma, that's one. Yes.
Okay, how do you know, please bring it back down, sorry, it's going so fast. How do you know the path of your career is right? Like, even though you pray and stuff, how do you know he's like heard you and acknowledges what you're requested when you have been let down in the past about a career and you're still trying to pursue it? How do you know it's right? Okay, so it's a two-part question, but let me say this. It comes back to what I think Pastor Clement alluded to. Are you pursuing that career because of the salary, because of money? Are you pursuing it because you are interested in it? And the hard question that I ask many times is, do you have the ability for that thing? And that's not to disregard or disrespect people. If the three reasons why people don't make it in life, they don't have the ability for what they want to do. They don't have the opportunity. To every one of us here that have more opportunity, there are many in some other parts of the world that don't have the opportunity that you have. And number three is application. If you have the ability and you don't apply yourself, that could lead into trouble. But this question looks like somebody that has been disappointed in the past. I will bring it back to my first point. Did you consult with God? Did you ask him to lead you? Did you ask him to direct you in your career choice? Did he ask you that, okay, what will I do? How am I going to arrive where I want to arrive? And if you didn't, now let's do it with this one that you are now trying to get into. Now, and the way for you to trust God is to forget the past. Philippians 3 is to forget the past and keep your focus right ahead of you. Yes, something has happened in the past, but you know, like Paul, Joseph said, yea, though he slay me, I will still trust him. Come back, because God is a good God. He will be able to harness the ability that he has given you. He will match it with opportunities. And as you apply yourself, you will find your niche in life. I'm a believer in that. You will find your niche in life. Don't look at things that you have tried to put together that hasn't worked. Let's go back to drawing board. That's why you need a mentor. That's why you need to hold yourself accountable. And even that's why you need to sometimes listen to your parents. The only reason, and I'm sorry to say this, that I think parents shouldn't choose career for their children is make sure that you're not choosing for your child to live your dreams. Don't let your dreams become your children's nightmare. I'm sure many of the young ones are happy. You wanted to do medicine, you couldn't do medicine. Now, oh no, James, is medicine you must study. And somebody said amen. And you see, and James has now, decided that, okay, he doesn't want to do medicine. He wants to do law. Please pray about it. And Father, if that's what he ought to do, help him to do it. I will give you an example. I wanted to do pharmacy. I've said this many times. I wanted to do pharmacy. And my dad looked at me one day. He said, Ireti, you're a people's person. I know you can do pharmacy, but I think you should consider medicine. One conversation my dad had with me. He never forced me. He was a teacher. He never forced me to do it. And I said, maybe he's right. And the rest is history. So sometimes you need to really just listen to people around you because they see how you move with those children. And they think, you will be very good maybe as a child care somebody. And that doesn't mean that you have to work for somebody for the rest of your life. Focus. Look at the gifting on the inside of you. Listen to people that are significant in your life that have your best interests at heart and won't push you to achieve something that they couldn't. Sorry, parents, you've got to take that into consideration. And when you position yourself there, then you begin to consider the subject that you need to do. And if you're struggling with certain subject, pray about it as well. That's what we need to do. Amen.
Amen. So many questions, but yes, because of our time.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Dr.
No worries.
And
should we answer one more or two? I'm fine. Is our time up on the Zoom?
Okay, you can answer, ma.
Okay. Where is the? I can't see the question. Can you resend it to me?
Another question is, how do you plan your day? How do you go ahead to plan your day?
Okay, right. I'm happy that you asked that. I was very excited when Kelly was talking about sleep. Because like she said, the teenagers, they go to bed late, then they wake up late. See, you have lost most of your productive time. Mm-hmm. If you sleep late and you wake up late, your productivity is zilch, okay? There is a way that God has wired us, okay? There's a way that God has wired us in the sense that at night is for sleep. That even those of us that have to work sometimes at night, we find it difficult sometimes. That's the way you're wired. Because your hormones your melatonin is released so that you can calm down, your body is rejuvenated, your cells are mended so that you can stay the other day. But if you stay on your Snapchat, your Instagram, and looking at things that are worthless, that doesn't contribute to your progress, you understand? You're looking at Facebook and listening to the lies that the world is trying to tell you, and then you don't go to bed. Now you want to go to bed, you can't really sleep. You've got to sleep well at night is what I'm trying to get at. As a young person, you should do at least 6 to 7 hours a day, okay? The older you are, maybe 6 hours a day would be good for you, but don't do anything less than 6 to 7, okay? So when you sleep and you wake up in the morning, if you want to go for a run in the morning, go for a run. It releases endorphins for you. But before you go to bed, think about what you want to do the following day. When I wake up at 9, okay, I'm going to have my devotion. I will spend time with God, whatever you call it, spend time with God. God is not going to be upset if you can only spend 20 or 30 minutes because I don't want that to be a yoke over you. If it's 10 minutes, God will be happy. But when you so much get into God, you get to 10 minutes and you're like, I'm really enjoying this. You give another 10 minutes. So when you finish, okay, I'm going to have breakfast. Okay, have breakfast. And what am I going to do? We're not going to school, but at 9 o'clock, I should be in school. So plan your 9 to 12 to do something and plan it with your breaks in between. Because if you don't plan your day, you will refuse to get up. You see, plan gets you out of bed in the morning. You know that you have to do something, and that gets you out of bed and it gets you going. And when you keep moving, it's good. You are releasing the right hormones. When you're studying, you are releasing something to yourself that, oh, this knowledge is very good for me. So you plan, you write out what you want to do. Now, That doesn't mean that mommy can't ask you to take the dustbin out. That you will now turn and say, look, it's my reading time. If you are going to say it's your reading time, then take out the dustbin, the garbage bin before you start your study, so mommy won't come and disturb your study. Go and spread out those clothes that you need to do. Empty the dishwasher before mommy asks you, so that your time is well planned. So you plan it and you write out what you need to do. And all the joy of being able to just cross out things, I really enjoy it. Just cross out that it's been done. So that's very important. How can we address the fear of missing out in the youth?
That's the last question. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It depends on what you feel you are missing out on. You see, there's some things that people have said is important, but when you look at it in the context of where you want to get to, if it's not important, then you're not missing out. Hanging out is okay, but I remember as a medical student in those days, we could not hang out with everybody else that is doing some courses because ours was more intense. It was so intense that if you think you're going to do like everybody else, you will miss out on achieving your dreams. So it depends on where you place your value. It depends on what you count important. And that is not to tell you that you're going to be nobody in life. You could hang with them and then you come back and then you realize that they are able to get what you're trying to study in 30 minutes. And then you are there for another 4 or 5 hours, just because you went to hang out with them because you don't want to miss out. Get your priorities right. It depends on what your priorities are. And like Ecclesiastes said, there's a time for everything. There's a time to hang out and there's a time to study. You're not missing out on anything. It depends on what your relationship with God is like and how much you value that above everything else that the world has got to offer you.
Wow. Thank you so much. Information loaded. God bless you, ma. And we are going to have your final chunk of final say concerning this. But I'll go to Pastor Clem. Any final say to our youth at this period?
Okay.
Pro-COVID. Pastor Clem, please, sir.
Okay. Now, the good thing about this is it's brought us back to the essential, what is important. You see, young people are really, we're all really, I don't want to say we, young people are very much into social media. Realize that in this time, social media you're now tired of it. You want to see your friends, you want to hang out with them. Exactly. Because that is the way God has made us. We're communal being, we're for fellowship, we're for hanging out with one another. Now, in the middle of all of that, now we have been told you can't touch, you can't hug. When you see people, you wave at them. And I'm sorry, this might be here to stay for a while yet from a physical perspective. So I don't want our young people to be reckless as this is being lifted up. You understand? You need to be very careful. You don't know who your friends have been in contact with. You don't know who they've hung out with. So be very careful from a physical perspective that you maintain the social distancing is very important. Now, the other thing is, the washing of hands. I'm sure everybody has mastered that right now, and I thank God for that. But when there's some of us who have exams, the people that have exam, I really want to talk to you. More importantly, like I said, please, really, really focus on your study. It's very, very important. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you're going to miss out just for your knowledge base. Now, there's still a few of it. No, we're having reduced number of cases, but please, you don't know who has it. Even at work, you have to treat people as if they have it. Anybody that is around you, you've got to treat them as if they have it. Apart from your family members, be very careful going out there. Now, this too shall pass. Amen. There was pandemic in 1918, 1920. I don't know what they did. They didn't have social media. I don't know how they stay connected with themselves, because contact with people is important for our existence. But thank God that we have this. So this too shall pass. If it passed in 1920, it will pass even during this time as well. But keep your goals, your plans, your aspirations, your dreams. Please keep them alive. Things might be set back by a few months, But please, when everything goes back to normal, keep the fire burning concerning your aspirations and your goals. And please, talk. Don't be having conversation with yourself in your head. Please, I'm begging you all. There must be somebody that you can confidently talk to. And please, all the elder people in the house, when our young ones come to talk to you, what do you mean you are depressed? Please don't say that. What do you mean you are feeling down? Don't I feed you? Don't you have money? No, don't, because I'm the one that knows how I'm feeling. And if I'm expressing how I'm feeling to you, put your arms of love around me, because not everybody can hug me at the moment. But please, love me for who I am. Reach out to them, because this has really affected many of our young people by saying African parents, they don't understand. You see, they're in an environment which is different from the environment that we were brought up in. So please look out for each other, be there for one another. If anybody is talking in a negative way, please bring the positivity of the word of God into the situation. God is not taken aback by this, and I know he said, never leave us nor forsake us. He will get us through to the other side. And please keep those dreams and goals and aspirations alive. It will come to pass in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you so much, ma. Final word, Pastor Clem.
Well, our able doctor has said everything. I just want to drop a liner in line to what she said already to all our students out there and our young ones out there, that the only way you can prosper, or if I may put it this way, you cannot prosper in anything except the things that you are gifted, talented, or anointed to do. So in choosing your career and going for your career choices, you need to look out for your giftings. You need to look out for what you are anointed for and what you are talented to do. And once you do that, the sky is just a stepping stone, or a step to where God wants you to be. And as you hold on to God, I see him taking you to the heights where you want to get to, which is unimaginable. Because he says that whatever it is that we ask of him, he will do beyond our imagination. All you need to do is to ask, think beyond your imagination, and God will bring the rest to fruition. God bless you all, and thank the host and all the co-hosts for this special program.
Thank you so much, Pastor Clem, for your time, Dr. Ariti. Thank you, and Kelly Holmes, thank you so much. And before we round up, I want us to know that the next seminar is coming up soon. To watch out for our next seminar on identifying and addressing psychosocial issues among the young people. I believe that every one of us, we have enjoyed our key speakers today. So don't be surprised when I be bringing them again next time, because I'm truly blessed. Thank you so much. And I want to appreciate people, and these students have come without the help of God Almighty. We appreciate God for this. And I want to appreciate our pastor in the house, Pastor K. Kokuola, for the encouragement, for the assistance, and for everything. God bless you, sir. God bless you. We appreciate you. And our multimedia, Deacon Daniel Oni. Thank you so much, Deacon Daniel. And I want to appreciate our HOD, Children Department, Deaconess Labake. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And our youth executive, Semisala Popola and Jermaine, and all the youth generation belongers, RCCPC of Mercy. Beloved, thank you for your time. This is well over 3 hours, and I believe it's respect. So for you to have all the information, the video, please go to RCCG, email us rccg.seatsofmercy.island@gmail.com, and watch out for our next session. Thank you so much for your time, and God bless you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks all for attending.
Thank you. Pastor Meg.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma.
Bye.